Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the September 16th, 2025 meeting of the Chatham Select Board. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please notify the chair. Seeing none, pursuant to Governor Healy's March 28, 2025 signing of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025 extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20, until June 30th, 2027, this meeting of the Chatham Select Board is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410, conference ID 203-386-491#, or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV, Xfinity Channel 1072, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. First order of business is to establish a quorum. Mr. Dykens.
Present.
Mr. Metters.
Present.
Mr. Smith.
Present.
And the chair is present, and Board Member Davis is expected shortly. We'll begin first with 4 sets of minutes, and I do want to compliment Kathy. These were very well done. I do have some corrections, but we'll start with the minutes of June 24th, 2025. Is there a motion to approve?
Move the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any corrections? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Mr. Dykens.
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Those are approved. The second is the minutes of July 22nd, 2022. I'm sorry, 2025, and I'll accept a motion to approve. Is there a motion to approve? Mr. Metters is moving to approve.
I'll move to approve.
And Mr. Dykens is seconding.
Second.
Okay. I have one minor edit myself on page 3, second paragraph, last line, where it says 127 Old Harbor Road. I think you delete the apostrophe S. Are there any other corrections or comments on these minutes? Okay. Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Mr. Dykens.
Abstain.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, so that's 301. Thank you. Next are the minutes of August 5th, 2025. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I have one correction on page 3 up at the top, first line, where it says Clerk Smith asked. I think we should insert the phrase "for a discussion on" and strike the word "that." So it would read, Clerk Smith asked for a discussion on the board Chapter C. I think that's what you did, Stuart. That's all I had. Any other corrections or comments? Call the roll. Mr. Dykens.
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. And the last one is are the minutes of September 2nd, 2025. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Is there a
Second.
second? Okay, I had a few here because there was one issue, specifically the residential tax exemption, that I was the only one that spoke on, and I didn't want the suggestion to be that the full board had echoed or offered the same comments I did. So these are in that vein. On page, there may be one or two other things here too. On page 4, we'll start with that. It's the 6th paragraph, which begins discussion, return to the board. In the second line, I would strike at the end the words recently approved, because we were talking there, at least I was talking there about the tax exemption as applied to FY 2026. What was approved was the one for 2027. So I think that's a more correct, accurate reflection of what was said. In the next paragraph where it says the board asked to discuss the correlation, I would just strike the word board and say it was asked, because it was just me. On the next page, up at the second paragraph, the board discussed the residential exemption for Nantucket. I would strike the board discussed, that phrase, and just put the residential exemption that was approved for Nantucket was discussed, comma. And then in the fifth line in that paragraph, some members of the board felt, I would just strike that and say it was suggested that. And then the fourth paragraph, which begins Elaine Gibbs Chatham, the last sentence, last line, the word assessor, the new assessor, it should say director of assessing. That's the position that's going to be filled. And then on page 11, up at the top, Chair Nicastro said, this has to do with the town council contract, there is no term, I'd like to insert the word recited.
Where are you, Dean?
On page 11,
Yep.
up at the top, it says no vote was taken, as there was no second. And then the next paragraph, Chair Nicastro stated there is no term in the current contract. I'd like it to say there is no term recited in the current contract. And then in the fifth paragraph, Mr. Metters made a motion. I think the motion was that the select board determination rather than recommendation is to continue town council's contract as is. That's my reflection of what occurred. And then finally, on page 13, under the Taxation Aid Committee, first sentence in the second line, after the phrase "on this committee," I would add, "and the favorable opinion of town council," period. And then I would add this sentence to the whole paragraph. There was consensus to appoint all three public members to a 3-year term at once. There was consensus to appoint all three public members to a 3-year term at once. Those are my edits or corrections. So, any others from anybody else? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a couple. On page 8, just the 1, 2, third full paragraph that starts, it was stated that the town can allow up to 70% local preference for the 40B units. I don't understand the next line, to what it refers to. There is no local preference allowed for the attainable housing units. There's no local 40B preference allowed for the attainable housing units. It's just related to affordable. So the reference is confusing to me. It's just not clear. Okay. And then further on here on page 12, 1, 2, 3, fourth paragraph down, there was discussion on the use of the consent agenda. I would say it was suggested that if a petitioner of an annual event comes forward to use the town, it was suggested that if a petitioner of an annual event comes forward to use the town facilities.
Okay.
And I would also refer in that paragraph that if an applicant wants to come, even though they've applied before, they certainly are if they want the publicity, if you will, they're certainly able to come. So if you just add that, I'd really appreciate it. That's what we discussed. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other corrections or comments? Stuart?
Just one, I guess it was more of a question. I think you changed for the or referencing the assessor to director of assessment.
Yeah, I think that the minutes were referring to the position currently held by Ardell Kelly.
Okay,
She's not an assessor, she's the director of assessing. Because I think that's her
I'll
title.
confirm with Human Resources.
Whatever her
the
title is,
exact
we should-
title.
yeah, it used to be,
I believe it's assessing.
It used to be
director.
assistant assessor or
it
something
used to be
like
deputy assessor.
Yeah.
So I don't know if something changed,
I
but
think they did change it, but I remember that title.
Okay.
There was a gentleman that held that.
only just not important.
Any others? Okay. We'll call the roll on that as corrected. Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Okay, 4-0. Next item are public announcements and agenda item requests. And the chair has one that I'm going to make concerning the implementation of the new, or the revisions to the public participation policy of the Select Board, if I can get that in front of me here. We revised this at the last meeting. The meeting public participation policy. And the question was asked by a citizen, if you look at the agenda, we do have a public comment section. We have a public comments on the business agenda section. This is item 6. And whether that meant that people could not comment on what is showing on the business agenda. And that was not my intention. I left it there in case someone wanted to make a comment on the business agenda but wasn't able to be present for the balance of the meeting. I think we'll try that out for a while, see how that works. We might eventually eliminate that. My intention in implementing this change, which allows for contemporaneous public comment on agenda items, is that when the agenda is posted, unless it says board discussion or for board discussion only or something like that, the intention is that public comment will be permitted on these items. However, I do reserve the right under the policy to make on-the-spot determinations if I feel something is appropriate only for the board. I'm going to try to avoid that. I'd like to give the public advance notice of whether something is going to be discussed or not. And with that in mind, there is one item I'm going to do that on tonight, and that's the final item on the agenda, the business agenda, which says Select Board Liaison for the Taxation Aid Committee. I really do think that's a Select Board administrative function, so I'm not going to entertain public comment on that unless the board wants to do that. But I don't feel strongly about it, but I neglected to make that clear when we posted the agenda. That's my public comment. So any comments or announcements or agenda items from the board? Stuart.
And I think that's all fine, but irrespective of the policy, the chairman has that
Yes.
has that responsibility.
Yes,
and authority.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Any other public announcements from the board?
Not tonight.
Okay, and from the audience in person, Mr. Buckley.
Thank you. And I apologize, in my rush out the door, I left my new hearing aids at home, so I'll have to listen to what you just said on the recording. Anyway, but I wanted to make sure that people knew that there's a draft environmental impact report that was just released by Massachusetts Department of Transportation that has to do with the proposed new bridges for the Cape Cod Canal. And I've been attending these meetings mostly in the Bourne area for the past almost 10 years. And so anyway, and being familiar with the whole process in a previous career in the federal government, I was very curious to see how it worked here in my backyard, so to speak. And so anyway, but I wanted to make sure that because something like this, I think, is as significant and substantial as the bridges when they were built in 1935, had certainly a significant effect at that time compared to the drawbridge, which I'm sure was probably 1/10 the carrying capacity for traffic and so forth, if that. Anyway, there was a comment period that ends on October 24th. I would like, and as a former member of the Economic Development Advisory Committee, I want to make sure that everybody knows about it and that there's some formal response from the town, because I think there are some, in looking over the draft environmental impact report, which I brought part of it with me. This is a couple pages shy of 1,000 pages. It's double-sided. And there's twice as many of these. There's 2 more of these for appendices. So anyway, I'm just saying, you better order some ink. But you can order them. There is a way you can order it also for free. So that's all. If you go to the Cape Cod Bridges, if you Google Cape Cod Bridges, there's all the information is there. But I just wanted to make sure that there was some response, because in looking it over briefly, they've said that there's be virtually no impact on anybody else coming to Cape Cod once these bridges are open, which each bridge I'm just saying, the Cape Cod, the one they have proposed for the Sagamore Bridge is 2 new bridges side by side that are each one of those is wider than the existing bridge. So I'm just saying, I'm a little concerned that they have given short shrift to the Lower Cape and Outer Cape, and with the idea being that they want to get this done So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen, for bringing that to our attention, for following that. Shauna, and then I'm going to go online. You had several announcements.
Hi, yes, Shauna Neal, your Communications Manager. I have 3 announcements. The first is that the town is updating its hazard mitigation plan, which serves as our roadmap to the future and reducing risks from things like storms, flooding, and other natural hazards. To make sure the plan reflects the real needs of the community and our experiences in our community, we're asking members to complete our hazard mitigation plan update survey. It's now available on the town's website in the news and updates section, and will be accessible through the town's social media accounts tomorrow. We'll also be hanging these flyers with the QR code to access the survey around town. Responses will ensure that the plan reflects our values and priorities and will help guide us to keep Chatham safe and resilient in the future. The deadline to complete the survey is Monday, October 13th, which is Columbus Day. In somewhat the same vein, a week from Thursday, on September 25th, the town will be hosting a special community climate event from 4 to 6 at the Community Center entitled Climate Impacts in Chatham, Understanding and Managing the Risks. The event will highlight how climate change is already affecting our community, what lies ahead, and the steps the town and its residents can take to prepare. This is a free event and will feature presentations from Chris Gloninger, I hope I said that right. He's the senior climate scientist at Woods Hole Group. Joe Famely, climate and sustainability team lead, also from Woods Hole Group, and our own Director of Natural Resources, Greg Berman, and Catherine Ricks, our Coastal Resilience Director. The presentation will be followed by a question and answer session, and Chatham TV will be recording it for on-demand viewing in the future. And then last but definitely not least, tomorrow morning at 8:30, Chamber of Commerce is holding a ribbon-cutting ceremony in honor of the reopening of Larry's PX. And we hope the community will turn out in force to celebrate together the return of this culinary and cultural institution. Thank you.
Thank you, Shauna. So no one else in person. Elaine Gibbs, I think you have an announcement or an agenda item request.
Yes, thank you. I have an agenda request. While promoting, pardon me, increased tourism, the significant financial impact and the market deterioration of the quality of life of full-time residents has never been seriously addressed. I'm requesting an agenda item to direct that a cost-benefit analysis audit be done on the real cost of tourism's impact on our environment, quality of life, and historic character. We receive about $5 million in revenue from the hotel motel tax, meal tax, and various permits for the transfer station and beach. We receive no revenue from retail, but tourism requires larger municipal buildings, increases in town employees full and part-time, increases in water sewage usage and costs, traffic backups, insufficient parking, drivers not understanding or ignoring the state rules and regulations of roundabouts and cyclists, larger and more frequent aircraft, increased pavement with widened roads and multipurpose sidewalks resulting in significant loss of trees, hundreds of directional signs including on pavement, over 200 between the West Chatham roundabouts alone, extensive and expensive chain restaurants with owners who don't live in Chatham, out-of-state investment companies buying up both commercial properties like the Wayside and residential properties for short-term rentals, driving up our assessments by double digits every year. Virtually all downtown businesses are for tourists. Residents have to go to Orleans and Hyannis for our very basic necessities. Affordable housing has effectively changed from year-round families to workforce seasonal housing to support businesses and tourism. How much is that going to cost taxpayers? Hundreds of millions is my guess for $5 million in revenue. Tourism is, in my view, the problem and a very expensive one. Decisions made in a vacuum, committees, state staff boards, and special interests about parking density, traffic, water, sewer, conservation, and affordable housing, in my view, are Band-Aids, not addressing the root cause, which is tourism. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Elaine. Any other public announcements or agenda item requests? Okay, seeing none, we'll now proceed with the regular business of the night. We have 2 public hearings. One is on flashing beacons on Sam Ryder Road. Another is on an all alcoholic beverage request for Pine d'Avignon. We have a consent agenda for sale of goods on town property for two particular applications. We have the monthly report on Chatham wells and drinking water, and so forth. And then we have a business agenda, which will include several one-day special alcoholic licenses, a report from the Parking Solutions Working Group, and the Select Board will consider appointing or designating a liaison for the Taxation Aid Committee. So we'll start with the first public hearing. And I'll ask the clerk to read the notice.
Select Board, public hearing. The Chatham Select Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, September 16th, 2025 at 5 p.m. in the large meeting room at the Town Office Annex, 261 George Ryder Road, to consider placing 2 rapid flashing beacons on Sam Ryder Road at the Old Colony Rail Trail bike path crossing. All interested parties are encouraged to attend and participate remotely via the link on the posted agenda.
Okay. I will note that Select Board Member Davis has joined us online. Is that correct? Shereen? Is she there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, good. Just want to establish that for the record. So Joan Craig, Chair of the Traffic Safety Committee, which has made this recommendation. Do you want to present it, Joan?
very
Please,
briefly.
welcome.
With regard to Sam Ryder Road and the bike crossing, at our, I'm the chair, as mentioned, of the Traffic Safety Committee. At our June 26th, 25 meeting, there were 4 individuals present, and DPW Director Faley had received a grant for the installation of rapid flashing beacons on Sam Ryder Road at the bike path crossing. The Traffic Safety Committee voted 4-0 in support of this. The rapid flashing crossing lights will be placed on each side of Sam Ryder Road at the bike path crossing, and Rob Faley is here to expand on that. There's also a representative from the Bike Committee. Thank
Okay.
you.
Rob, Director of Public Works, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Joan. So this was part of Mass DOT's Vulnerable Road User Assessment Program. They were providing at no cost rectangular rapid flashing beacons, or RRFBs as they're known as. We provided some traffic data as well as that the police department did for us, and we also included bike path user counts that the Bikeways Committee had conducted for us. So they had 3 criteria to meet their obligations. Once we were approved, crosswalks must be clearly marked with high visibility markings. Curb ramps compliant with ADA must be constructed on both sides of the crosswalk, and existing vegetation trimmed to reduce the possible solar obstructions. So these RRFBs would be similar to the ones at the bottom of Meeting House Road, also on Route 28. And I did sign a memorandum of agreement. Bikeways Committee and both Traffic and Safety Committee had endorsed this unanimously. And I just wanted to note that we are only one of 2 communities on Cape Cod that were approved for these installations.
Is there anything there now?
There's nothing there now, just a crosswalk and like a pedestrian sign. But the RRFBs meet all FHWA requirements for a safe pedestrian crossing.
Are there any questions or comments from the board? And then I'm going to ask the representative of the Bikeways Committee to come forward as well.
Just one quick question. The one sign going south and one when you're going north, one on each side?
One on each side, correct.
Perfect, thank you.
Stuart?
I just had a quick question came to mind while you were, good job on the grant, by the way, Rob. Are there signs on the bike path as you approach Sam Ryder or more?
There are stop signs.
There are stop signs. Are there dismounting signs?
I don't know if they're consistent. Some of our intersections do have them.
Yeah.
Some, I believe, do not.
Yeah. Might be something for the committee to think about.
What is the cyclist required to do if there are these flashing signs? They're supposed to
Dismount.
stop and dismount?
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
So if a cyclist is within the crosswalk, they are considered vehicles, just like any other vehicle on the road. When they dismount, they're considered pedestrians. that's where the yield condition comes into
Okay.
place. Motorists must yield to pedestrians.
Okay. Is someone from the Bikeways Committee present who wants to speak? Yes, sir. Bob, please step forward. Nice to see you. Oh, I'll get you in a minute. Mr. Oliver.
Bob Oliver, Chairman of the Bikeways Committee. Well, and as was said by Rob, the Bikeways Committee did unanimously endorse this. We are in the process right now of updating our master plan. One of the highest priorities on a master plan are the intersections. And intersections and also education for both cyclists and vehicles, drivers. Because, as we know, cyclists don't always stop and cars don't always stop. And we can put signs up and they still don't stop. But this particular intersection, the sight lines aren't perfect because it dips when you've got all the traffic coming out of the transfer station. And so some of the other locations, you've got better sight lines. It makes it a lot easier for anyone crossing the road. But in this particular case, especially when they're going southbound, when they're coming out of the transfer station and going down Sam Ryder Road, there's a relatively short distance from the time they go over the hill to the time they get to the crosswalk. So I would recommend highly that we go ahead and put these in.
Thank you. Mr. Metters, you had a question or comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to just ask Rob one quick question, because he mentioned these are similar to 137. Can you just explain for the public how are these supposed to function, and like when do they go off and all the fun logistics around it?
Sure, there are sensors placed in advance on the bike path, so as bicyclists or pedestrians are approaching the intersection, that's when they light up. There's also an option for pedestrians to hit a push button as well.
Okay.
So it's either or. Sometimes those sensors do fail. We've had that similar situation on Old Queen Anne Road. We're in the middle of replacing those, the batteries, but it seems like the RRFBs seem to be a little bit more reliable.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. This is a public hearing. Are there any comments from members of the public? Yes, please come to the rostrum and state your name.
Hi, gang. Jared Fulcher. I'm not against the intent of this proposal to put these lights up, and I appreciate the acknowledgement that we do have a problem with bicyclists who cruise right through the intersections, which seems to happen more often than not, at least in my own observations. I would hope that with illuminating these crossings, that this board and maybe the Bikeways Committee might do due diligence in erecting fixed stanchions, I guess, for lack of a better term. I see them in Yarmouth. They're basically staggered barriers, and it prevents the bicyclist from riding through the intersection. I was actually a witness last year in Harwich Center. Bicyclist came full force right through the 124 intersection, and a truck clipped him. My dash cam caught it. Harwich police were not particularly sympathetic because he rode right through a stop sign. I think it's poor judgment a lot of times. And I will say, a lot of times the pedestrians are the ones getting slighted on this. The pedestrians will wait on the side of the road and the motorists will not stop, and I get that. But this bicyclist going through the intersections constantly. I had one an hour and a half ago right out here by the airport on an e-bike. Blasted right through George Ryder Road, never slowed down, never stopped, never even looked for traffic coming. And I said, this is beyond ridiculous. One of these days, somebody is going to get killed. And I don't want to be the one to say, I told you so, but I would hope that this board and the Bikeways Committee will at least look into investing in these stanchions that prevent people from riding through. They will force all the bicyclists to dismount and walk across the intersection. Please keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. The chair of the Bikeways Committee is here, and perhaps they might want to take that up at some point. I wasn't looking to get into that, but if you want to make a comment on it, that's fine, Rob.
I appreciate the comments of the gentleman before me. So stanchions work sort of. The problem is the cyclists go around them. Okay, so you can put it on the bike path, you can put it at intersections, but as long as there's any grassed area or to the left or the right, the cyclist will simply go around them. So now it gets more involved. Every intersection is different, but you'd have to put up fencing or something. It'll slow down the cyclists, and then what happens is the drivers in the vehicles will start yelling because you're going across the intersection slowly. So it's a complicated problem. But I just wanted to mention that while they do slow down the cyclists, keep in mind that it's a bigger issue because you have a lot more structure to put up to prevent people from going around it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Holgren.
John Holgren, South Chatham. Yeah, I think that's a good idea because I believe it was just this past Saturday I was going to the transfer station and there was somebody who decided to come out from the right and didn't stop and so on. And unfortunately, because I'm legally blind in my right eye, so my vision was compromised slightly over there. So I, didn't see him immediately. So I think that having these things, to at least trigger and give me a better indication that, hey, there might be somebody who's not going to stop.
Okay.
So
Thank you, John.
just like in Great Western, sometimes it's helped there. Thank you.
Elaine Gibbs.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I echo a lot of the prior comments. I go to the transfer station a lot, and I would say 9 out of 10 times when there are cyclists coming, they go right through. I have a better line of vision looking to the left, going to the transfer station, but not to the right. I always go slow, but I think the blinking lights, instead of being on the road, should be turned around and being on the bike path, so that they know they have to stop. I think that's the bigger priority. I think most of us who go to the transfer station know it's there, but the cyclists don't necessarily know that. And so I don't know if you could just turn them around and put them on the bike path instead of the road. I think someone is going to get hit. Okay. And they don't dismount and they go full speed. And 9 out of 10 times it happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. Brian Phillips.
Brian Phillips, 374 Orleans Road. I'm an avid biker. I use the bike trails all the time. I'm wondering, are we going to be putting these blinking lights in every intersection? Is that the plan, like the Morton Road? Just because that seems to be a little more dangerous because they put the pump station in, so now there's like no line of sight on the road, so you can't see any of the cars coming.
Mr. Fairley.
So this was identified by the Bikeways Committee as the number one safety issue for the bikeway crossing, bike path crossing. So I'm not going to say that you won't see others in town eventually, but for now, this is the one we're focusing on.
Thank you. Mr. Metters.
Just for point of information, the blinking lights at 137, they've already existed, and they're there for the safety. Unfortunately, I am aware of a e-bike vehicle collision that happened probably within the last year. So they're there, but they're not. Still, human error can cause accidents, and that's where the people need to be educated and be aware, because we can put all the safeguards out there, but there are some elements that we just don't control, and it gets scary.
Brian, I'll give you another shot. I don't see anybody else here, so.
All right, this is to Selectman Smith. There is a lot of signs now that have just gone up on the bike trail that I've noticed, and there is the stop signs there that say, please dismount. And not only that, there's a pre-stop sign, like a stop sign warning. So, and then what I'm kind of curious about is they're supposed to have 3 feet off the side of the bike trail. So a lot of these signs, I don't know if they comply with like the state safety codes or whatever, because a lot of them gone up, they went up real fast, and I guess that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. All right. There are no other public comments, so I'll take it back to the board. So we have this recommendation from the Traffic Safety Committee to place these rapid flashing beacons. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? So I'll close the public hearing and call the vote. Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. So, I'm sorry, Shireen.
That's okay. Aye.
And so it's 5-0. And again, I'll just repeat what I said before, that there were public comments regarding how perhaps better to improve these intersections, and maybe the Bikeways Committee might want to take a little look at that. But, and we'll see where that goes going forward. We have a second public hearing to consider the new seasonal all alcoholic beverages restaurant license for CCNY LLC, doing business as Pine d'Avignon. Mario Mariani, the manager. I'll ask the clerk to read the public hearing notice, please.
Select Board Public Hearing Notice. Notice is hereby given that the Chatham Select Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, September 16th, 2025, at 5 p.m. in the large meeting room at Town Office Annex 261 George Ryder Road, Chatham, and remotely via Microsoft Teams platform to consider the request for a new seasonal all-alcoholic beverage restaurant license for CCNY LLC, DBA Payne Marani, manager. I'm not going to do that. I'll massacre that name. The owners are seeking this license in addition to the annual wine and malt-only beverages restaurant license already in place at this location. The public is welcome to attend and the meeting in person, participate via the link in the meeting's posted agenda.
Okay, so I see Attorney Jamie Norcross on the screen. I assume, Jamie, you are presenting for the applicant, and would you like?
I am, Mr. Chairman.
Please proceed.
Good evening. Jamie Norcross, representing CCNY LLC, owner of Pond d'Avignon. Just a bit of background. My client has been operating in this location since the spring of 2024. They hold, as you heard in the announcement, an annual beer and wine license that was issued by this board back in July of 2024. The current application is for a seasonal all-alcohol license. So effectively, this would be a second license held by the applicant, where they can serve beer and wine throughout the year, and then spirits on a seasonal basis. And so the reason for the application, since opening, my client has heard from a number of customers who have told them they enjoy the food, they've had a nice experience, but they like to have a cocktail during their dinner. And if that was available, they would come back more often. And so it seems to be perhaps not a need, but a want from at least a segment of the community. It also provides a benefit to my client in terms of some additional revenue that they would be able to incur with respect to the sale of the all alcohol on a seasonal basis. I did want to mention they are a year-round business since coming to town back in 2024. And for those of us who do live here year-round, when the winter months come, it is a bit grim in terms of restaurants that are available. And so they do stay open. They would not be able to serve the spirits during the winter months, but they do stay open. So it helps them, I think, significantly in terms of their business model and ability to remain open moving forward. In general, I would say it's a straightforward request. I do note there was a lengthy letter from an abutter on Collins Lane, Mr. Doherty, objecting to the issuance of the all-alcohol license. This abutter also objected to the issuance of the beer and wine license back in 2024. I think many of the concerns raised in this letter are really beyond the scope of the application before you tonight, but I did want to address a few items. Number one, to my knowledge, there have been no complaints or violations issued by any town department relative to the restaurant operation. No complaints or violations from the ABCC. I did reach out to Chief Anderson at the Chatham Police Department yesterday, and he confirmed they've received no complaints by his department relative to noise or otherwise regarding Pond d'Avignon since they've opened for business back in 2024. So again, I think I'd want to dispel the notion that this is somehow a rowdy establishment. It's a fine dining restaurant that offers a drink with their meal, but certainly not what you would classify as a bar room by any stretch. There's also mention in Mr. Doherty's letter regarding this is a residential neighborhood. That is incorrect. This property is located in the GB zoning district, along with Mr. Doherty's property, in fact. And driving along Pearl Road, especially the stretch between Stepping Stones and Route 28, you could certainly refer to it as mixed use, but I certainly would not call it residential. There are a number of commercial businesses along that stretch of the road. So I think This has been a restaurant for many, many years, predating Pond Avignon, and so that is just continuing at this time. There's also reference to the fact that the exterior seating is somehow in violation of the liquor license. The letter is correct in that liquor is not allowed to be served outside. The seating itself, it can't be used for table service, meaning you can't have a table setting, you can't have a server come out and serve you on these outside patio tables. However, there is an element to this business which is takeout. So there's coffee, there's sandwiches, there's pastries, and so it is allowed in town that folks can come in, have a coffee and a sandwich or a pastry, and they can come sit out at these exterior tables. And that is in no way in violation of any town ordinance. And exterior seating has been at this location for many, many years under the prior businesses as well. So just to, in summary, my client, they want to be good neighbors to folks in this area. They haven't heard of these complaints before regarding dumpsters and delivery vehicles. They're certainly happy to address those with these folks if brought to their attention, which they are now. But again, I think the restaurant currently has a beer and wine license that they continue to use on a year-round basis. This would allow them to supplement their business model and also provide, we think, a benefit to the community based on the feedback that they've received from customers. So that's the reason for the request tonight, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Counselor. I just had one technical question on the application on page 3, which asks about, this is question 6A, interest in an alcoholic beverage license elsewhere. And the party that's listed is the restaurant itself, as distinct from principals in the restaurant. And maybe that is the correct entry. I don't know. I guess I would have thought there'd be individuals who are principals in the, is it an LLC or whatever? Is that, it says Pond Avignon Restaurant has the Barnstable location as well as the Chatham location.
I believe, a good question, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure if that was filled out incorrectly in terms of we're supposed to list the principals of the LLC. I mean, all the individuals with financial interest are listed.
Yeah, I see that. Well, that's something perhaps could be attended to between the applicant and Shauna.
Sure.
My other question, just to confirm something I think you said, is that if this license were granted, the service of all alcohol would be within the restaurant, inside. It wouldn't be outside. You're not serving outside.
Correct. In full disclosure, the restaurant would like that moving forward, but where that's down the road, we're in the process of trying to gain that approval from the relevant town boards. We don't know if that will be received. We're hopeful it will, but at this point, no. It would all be inside.
You would have to come back to this board as well.
That's correct. We'd have to come back to the select board as well.
Thank you. Any comments or questions to the applicant from the board? Okay, so this is a public hearing. Is anyone in the room? Joan Craig?
Thank you, Joan Craig. Just a quick question. When you say seasonal, exactly what do you mean date-wise?
Shauna, do you want to answer that question?
Thanks.
I'm asking Shauna to come forward and respond. So they already have a seasonal beer and wine license.
Seasonal is April 1st through November 30th, but it is extended, available an extension to January 15th of the following year with the permission of the board.
Okay. Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, we have my client has an annual beer and wine.
An annual beer and wine. Thank you for correcting me. So if this were granted, it would be seasonal for the all alcohol.
Correct.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Brian Phillips.
For the record, Brian Phillips, I think we should do whatever to support local merchants.
Thank you.
It didn't seem like a big harm. Thanks.
Thank you. Any online? Seeing none, I do, Mr. Norquist made reference to the letter that the board received with exhibits that will be entered into the record from attorney and I guess neighbor, Glenn, can I find his name?
It's Doherty, Mr. Chairman.
Glenn Doherty. Okay. Thank you. I'll bring it back to the board. We'll close the public hearing, and is there a motion on this application?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I'll call the roll. Mr. Dykens.
Aye.
Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. So it is approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next item is a consent agenda. We are restoring this to the agenda. There are two items that involve a request, and I'll read what they are, for the sale of goods and town property. First is consider sale of goods and town property Chatham Men's Club on October 17th, 2025 at the Chatham Community Center. Second is to consider use of town property and sale of goods and town property Chatham Recreation and Beaches Division Annual Holiday Craft Fair on November 22nd, 2025 at the Chatham Community Center. We note that the principals are present if anyone wants to remove these, if any member of the board wants to remove either or both of these from the consent agenda. Otherwise, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? We'll call the roll. Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Dykens.
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Consent agenda is approved. Thank you. Next is the monthly update on Chatham Wells, PFAS, and drinking water testing and pumping report and drought update, August 2025. Mr. Faley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, briefly, as in your agenda packet, I will try to breeze through this monthly report. The Chatham Wells have been pumping 12 to 18 hours a day, and this is for August. The water tanks did hit the low-level alarm 6 times in the month. They were all either on Wednesdays or Fridays. As a reminder, our watering restriction has odd-numbered addresses watering on Tuesdays and Thursdays, even-number addresses watering on Wednesdays and Fridays. So I would imagine that is part of the culprit, but 6 times is far less than our typical 10 to 12 times we've seen in recent years. The training field well 5 and 8 for the PFAS treatment plant. Work is progressing nicely. A lot of the architectural work is on the outside is wrapping up. Sprinklers inside are nearing completion. HVAC work is ongoing, so it's really taking shape. We should be up and running hopefully by spring of next year, provided we don't have any conservation restrictions on this one, so we should be all set. For the conservation restrictions at wells 10 and 11, so we did the last select board meeting, you so graciously approved the votes that we needed, and so that is back in the hands of the Secretary's office, and we're just waiting for word back from them. Our continued relationship with Veolia is very positive. For the month of August, they saved us over $47,000. Primarily, that is due to all the water meters that we're ordering. We were able to piggyback on their contract, and they're saving us quite a bit of money with that. So it's a good relationship. Everything else has been pretty standard operating, nothing out of the ordinary. I'd like to report, too, that since the irrigation letters did go out at the end of August, we've sold over $36,000 in irrigation meters. That's $200 a piece, so that's a substantial slug, and we're still making progress every day. We have people in the office every single day buying meters and registering their irrigation system, so it's making a difference. We're seeing a very positive shift. Here's the pumping comparison, August of this year versus August of last year. We are right on the money, 0.1% difference. It's a little concerning since we did have a lot of watering restrictions, but I know August was very dry at the same time. So I don't know what else to say other than hopefully we had some fall rains to get us out of here. Here it is, the same information in graph form. Again, August this year is the hot pink, just daily fluctuations, but very similar graph. And the same here with the bar chart. It's very very similar other than daily fluctuations. The pumping report per well. Again, we're right on the money with this time last year. Total is 81 million gallons. There was a little brief pause on the South Chatham wells just for maintenance issues for a few days. Other than that, everything is operating nicely.
Yes, Jeff.
Just a quick question, Rob. When we have 10 online, are we going to separate out 10 and 11, or is that not possible?
No, because they go to the same treatment
Same
plant,
treatment.
so
Thanks.
we would report them as a single entity.
Thank you.
Again, same information in bar chart form, just to show the level of effort. Our year-to-date pumping report. Last year, we were at 336 million gallons. This year, we're at 326 million gallons, so roughly a $10 million variance. 10 million gallon, sorry. Yeah, sorry, it's been a long day. So, yeah, any questions on this? I'll just keep moving forward. Year-to-date pumping graph, same information, just in bar chart form, easier comparison. And here's our unmetered water usage. Since we are in a drought situation, I wanted to note that in August, the flushing and blow-offs has been substantial. We did have quite a few dirty water calls. We are working with Veolia to try to figure out what that was. I think it may be the frequency of some of the flushing and some of the switching the green sand filters at Morton Road. So I think we just have to work with them to try to get a good parameter. Still only there, they've only been at this for a little over a year, so we're still working out some of the bugs. And again, here's the unmetered water usage just in graphic form. And here's the 5-year pumping comparison for the month of August. Again, yellow is this past August. You can see going back a year, it's very similar to last August. Pumping hours are quite a bit higher. Again, I think a lot of that had to do with August being so dry. But there were also additional wells, I believe, that were online back in previous years too. I just noticed that I usually put what wells at the bottom of this page, and I neglected to do that this month, so I apologize. And as far as the USGS groundwater report, this is the Chatham observation well. You can see it's pretty low. Hopefully we're near the bottom of the trough. As you can see, going back to 2021, this time of that year, we were already starting to recharge. So I know Chatham's observation wells are much more sensitive to fluctuations due to precipitation. But again, we are getting near, hopefully, the bottom of the trough, and we're going to start a seasonal recharge soon. This is Brewster's observation well, which again has always been more of a bellwether of conditions on Cape Cod. You can see how low we are, and we're just about at the lowest year between 2022 and 2023. We're far lower than any other years in comparison. So again, I don't have a crystal ball, but hopefully we're near the end of the trough and we'll start a seasonal recharge soon with some fall rains.
Rob, quick question. In 2023, were we in a drought situation at the same time? I mean, it seems like, we've been in a continual drought situation, but was it severe back in 2022,
It was
23?
In 22, I think we were in a level 2 drought. 23, I think it was only a level 1.
Okay, thank you.
And then this shows the map of Massachusetts. So the Massachusetts Drought Task Force met on September 8th. Cape Cod remained at a level 2, but the interesting part is the rest of Massachusetts, which most of them were in a level 0, are now the majority is in a level 2, but Southeast is in a level 1, and Nantucket is now in a level 2 as well. The only area not in a drought is Martha's Vineyard. So it's kind of odd how some of the storms have just clipped Martha's Vineyard and filled up their aquifer, and they're the only ones. And I know even the southeast region has received a lot of rainfall, but they're still in a level 1 drought. So something we're suffering regionally. I know the majority of New England's in a very similar situation. So that's all I had, unless you had any questions.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board
Pray for rain.
or from the public? So seeing none. Thank you, Rob. Appreciate the very detailed and comprehensive report. Next, public comments on the business agenda. This is here in case someone wants to make a comment in advance. It's not an opportunity to speak twice, but it's there. Otherwise, we'll go directly to the business agenda and allow public comment. Yes, Shireen, did you have?
Yeah, I just want to yeah, I do. Just on business items B and C, I'll be recusing myself from that discussion and
Thank
vote.
you. Duly noted. First is 7A. I'm sorry, Mr. Buckley?
Yes, Steve Buckley had a comment on the parking study.
On the parking, did you want to speak now, or did you want to wait until we had that report?
I would prefer to wait and hear what's said and then see if I have to speak anymore. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, thank you. All right. So we'll take the first item on the business agenda, which is to consider a special one-day alcohol license for Cape Cod Fishermen's Alliance Meet the Fleet on October 1st, 2025. And the applicant is, who? Jen, are you there? Jen,
yes,
welcome.
I'm here.
You've done this before many times, but please proceed.
I have. Thank you so much. I'm here representing my client, who is the Cape Cod Commercial Fishermen's Alliance. This is their 4 times a year Meet the Fleet event coming back for the fall on Wednesday, October 1st. And it'll be at their headquarters, 1566 Main Street, Captain Harding House in Chatham. We're looking for a one-day special alcohol permit to serve refreshments, really just during a 30-minute cocktail, not even hour, for the event. And it's Quahog Republic beer that they'll be serving.
Okay. Any questions, comments from the board? Corey?
Just a quick question, Jen. What's the parking plan for the event?
The parking plan?
Yes, please.
We have usually a parking attendant to help park cars in their parking lot, including backing down the driveway. And then we do sometimes suggest that people park next door at the pottery studio. He gives us permission to use his lot. We recommend that people carpool as well.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I move to grant a special one-day alcohol license for wine and malt beverages only to Bridget Krug of the Cape Fishermen's Alliance for October 1st, 2025, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at 1566 Main Street, Chatham.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. I don't see any public comment, so I will call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dyken?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
And the chair says aye, so it's 4-0.
Thank you very
Approved.
much.
Thank you. Item
Thanks.
B, and, okay, so item B, Mr. Metters has recused himself, and so has Ms. Davis. We'll wait for Mr. Stewart to come, but here he is. So, Stuart, we just took a vote. If you wanted to add your approval, I will entertain it for the special one-day alcohol license for the Fishermen's Alliance Meet the Fleet. It was unanimous, so we'll make that a 5-0 vote. And now we have 2 members who have recused on item B, which is to consider a special one-day alcohol license for Oktoberfest 2025 on October 18th, 2025, Chatham Chamber of Commerce and Merchants Association, and welcome.
Hi, thank you. Kristen Muller on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce and Merchants Association. Back in February, you all approved all of our goings-on for Oktoberfest except for our alcohol licenses. You subsequently approved a couple of licenses for our beer vendor and for Whalers Brewery to do a sampling. Last one, I think I might not see you till next year after today, I'm hoping. 2 alcohol licenses for the wine vendor. We've had them booked for quite a while. We were waiting on the responsible party names because those have to go on the licenses. So 1 in each lot, just like the beer vendor. It's a 10 by 10 tent. It's Cape Cod Winery. Erica Orlandella is the owner. Her husband will be one of the responsible parties, and then one of their managers will be in the other location.
Okay. Any questions from the board? And no public comments, so I'll entertain a motion.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I move to grant a special one-day alcohol license for wine and malt beverages only to Olivia Gundy of Cape Cod Winery for Oktoberfest 2025 on Saturday, October 18th, 2025, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Town Hall parking lot at 549 Main Street, Chatham. And I'll do the second one as well, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
I move to grant a special one-day alcohol license for wine and malt beverages only to Peter Orandella of Cape Cod Winery, Inc. for Oktoberfest 2025 on Saturday, October 18th, 2025, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Oyster parking lot of Kate Gould Park, Chatham.
Stuart, would you second both of those motions?
I'll second both of them.
Okay. I will call the roll. Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
The chair votes aye, so it passes 3-0.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next item is to consider a special one-day alcohol license and special one-day entertainment license for Chatham Harvester Seafood Festival on September 27th, 2025 at 95 Commerce Park South. Mr. Metters has returned. Ms. Davis has recused herself from this particular item, and presenting is Mr. Brett Tolley. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. Brett Tolley. I am the general manager and co-founder of the Chatham Harvesters Co-op. We're seeking a one-day alcohol license for an event that we're hosting on the 27th, Saturday, September, 3 to 7. It is in Commerce Park. Our address is at 95 Commerce Park. The purpose of the event is to celebrate local seafood, celebrate our fishermen who catch our fish, and to celebrate our cooks, our cooking fish. So we're going to serve our own catch. We're going to have some music amplified. And then we are going to be offering, hopefully, wine and beer sourced from Luke's Liquors to folks attending. We'll have a staff on site making sure to check for ID. I think that's it.
Thank you. I just had one question. In the application, you referred to members. I assume those are members of a cooperative. Is that what you are?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we're a fisherman-owned and operated, the only fisherman-owned and operated co-op in Massachusetts, located right here in Chatham. But we also have Fish Share members who are part of our co-op, and the event is sort of free to our members, but also we are inviting folks from the public. It's $40 a ticket. And then the idea is a ticket will get you one or two drinks.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board? Mr. Metters.
Brett, how you doing tonight?
Good,
Same question I asked the applicant Todd shortly earlier today. What's the parking plan for the event?
Yeah, sure. So our neighbors at Whiteley's across the street are generally closed on Saturday, and so they make their parking space available to us for the event. That's what we've done the past 2 years. It's worked out fine.
Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Dykens.
Yeah. Hello, Brad. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good luck. I move to grant a special one-day alcohol license for wine and malt beverages only, and a special one-day entertainment license for amplified, live and recorded music, readings, and storytelling to Brett Tolley of Chatham Harvesters for the annual Seafood Festival on September 27, 2025, from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. at 95 Commerce Park South.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. I will call the roll. Mr. Dykens.
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
The chair votes aye, 4-0.
Thank you very
Good luck.
much.
Thank you.
Have fun.
Okay, I think Board Member Davis has rejoined us. The next item is the Parking Solutions Working Group final recommendations. This is a report with recommendations from a group that has been studying downtown parking for several years. And I'm going to turn to our acting town manager, Katie Donovan, who will make the presentation and give us some of the background on this. And I would do note that Mr. Dykens and I, and previously Mr. Kokolas, served on this particular body. And there is a report from the Cape Cod Commission. It's all in the packet. So Katie, would you take it from here?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, thank you. Presenting tonight the final Parking Solutions Working Group recommendations to the board. So the Parking Solutions Working Group was created by Town Manager Jill Goldsmith in January of 2022 at the direction of the Select Board, and follow up to the board's calendar year 2022, fiscal year 2023 goal to research and make recommendations on parking solutions for the downtown area, including Shore Road, Chatham Bars Ave, Seaview Street, and related areas, and examine a town-supported shuttle service for the Fish Pier Loop and paid parking. The members of the group included myself as the staff lead or liaison, Select Board Representatives Jeff Dykens and Dean Nicastro, as mentioned, Traffic Safety Committee Representative Joan Craig. These are the current members of the group. Chamber and Merchants Representative Angela Buchar, and downtown resident Dee Dee Holt. And the Parking Solutions Working Group would like to recognize the efforts of all of the Parking Solutions Working Group members who have served on the working group. Former Select Board member Peter Kokolas, former Aunt Lydia's Cove Committee Representative Doug Feeney, representing the Chamber and Merchants Association, Amy Tagliaferri, Gary Thulander, and the late Mary Kavanaugh, representing the Traffic Safety Committee, the late Dick Hunter, and representing the Summer Residence Advisory Committee, the late Mike Waters. All provided various support throughout the 3 years that the group had been meeting, and so the group thought it was important that they were all mentioned in the final report. So the Parking Solutions Working Group initially brought a recommendation to the Select Board in June of 2022 in relation to having a traffic study done on Chatham Bars Ave. And at that time, board members thought that it would be better to do a larger study, and voted to direct staff to reach out to the Cape Cod Commission to request assistance with a more broadly scoped traffic and parking study to include the entire downtown area and the Fish Pier. Staff worked with the Parking Solutions Working Group to identify topics to be addressed through the study, which was submitted to the Cape Cod Commission for consideration. And the Cape Cod Commission funded the project through the Unified Planning Work Program. The final report was completed in May of 2025. The Parking Solutions Working Group held 24 meetings and 2 public forums. Most of the meetings of the Parking Solutions Working Group were held prior to commencing work with the Cape Cod Commission, which happened in November of 2023. The Parking Solutions Working Group held an initial forum here in this room to hear from folks related to paid parking or timed parking at the Fish Pier, and also timed parking along Main Street, as well as paid parking in the core downtown lots. Information that we heard at that meeting, I think, kind of drove us more to have a discussion with the Cape Cod Commission on whether or not paid parking was something that they would recommend. And so you'll see later in the report that that is actually something that they do recommend in the core lots in downtown. And also, the Cape Cod Commission held a forum in July of 2025. I think both forums were pretty well attended by members of the public, and we got some really good feedback at both. So just as noted in the report, so key takeaways from the Cape Cod Commission study suggest that while downtown Chatham has sufficient parking, the use of existing lots can be optimized. I won't get into the rest of this quote because we get into the recommendations a little bit further, but I think that it's important to note that the commission thinks that the number of spaces is actually sufficient, but we've got some work to do. So Going through the suggested next steps or recommendations by the Cape Cod Commission, I'd like to note that none of these are in any particular order. That was the order that they had written them in the report, but not necessarily any thoughts that one is more important than the other. So the Commission recommended that we improve signage and wayfinding, that parking lot directional signages and, to overflow parking lots can assist with improving perceived and real parking congestion as well as safety. The town should identify strategic sign locations and use wayfinding tools to direct drivers to currently underutilized parking lots and help pedestrians connect back to the downtown once they have parked. And this study also suggests that the installation of uniform signage at the entrance to each parking lot and additional signage to direct motorists to the overflow parking lots. And I'll ask a question of the chair. As we're getting into some of the suggestions, would you like me to pause or go through the entire report?
I would go through the entire report, and then we'll come back and
Okay.
ask the board how we want to proceed.
So these next recommendations are related to the parking regulations. The first one is that the town should consider updating the parking regulations for the downtown core to be consistent with the current best practices. Changes to consider include implementing paid parking in the core parking lots, placing time restrictions on Main Street, not paid parking, only time restrictions, and then incorporating employee parking spaces or lots in the downtown area, and formalize striped spaces on Depot Street and Main Street, as well as create a drop-off loading zone and loading zones for delivery vehicles in the Orpheum Theater. Some key intersection improvements that should be enhanced for pedestrian safety and connectivity to make the downtown area more walkable and ADA compliant. They're suggesting that we look at the intersections at the Main Street Rotary, Main Street at Cross Street, Main Street at Chatham Bars Ave, and Shore Road at Barcliff. Other potential multimodal enhancements for consideration include mid-block crosswalk upgrades on Main Street, reestablishing the mid-block crossing near Library Lane, mid-block crosswalk upgrades near the Chatham Lighthouse, extending the existing sidewalk on Shore Road to Barcliff Ave and Main Street, established a paved path from the Chatham Community Center to Depot Road, and then uniform bicycle parking throughout downtown. The commission is also recommending a downtown shuttle. The town should establish a downtown shuttle to improve accessibility to parking lots located outside the core area. To encourage use, the shuttle could be offered for free. Pickup and drop-off locations could be clearly marked on parking maps throughout the downtown to make it easy for visitors to navigate. A third-party vendor could be considered to partner with. Additional recommendations made by the commission were to restripe the community center parking lot to improve the layout and efficiency, update and expand the You Are Here wayfinding maps throughout downtown, and locate accessible parking spaces near crosswalks. And then two final suggestions. One is, while not suggested by the Cape Cod Commission, the Parking Solutions Working Group suggests the Select Board consider exploring the purchase of the former bank building at 655 Main Street to add additional parking spaces. And additionally, though it was not suggested in the Commission's next step, the Commission suggests in the body of the report that consideration be given to either time-restricted or paid parking at the Fish Pier upper lot. And that is it for my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And I think DPW Director Rob Faley is also here.
Thank you. I just want to make some initial comments, and then we'll ask the board how we want to proceed, and we'll certainly entertain comments from the public. I did want to note that in service on this particular working group, we did also have the benefit of input from various other town officials, like the two public safety chiefs, I think the DPW director, current and former, and I think also Dr. Duncanson was involved at one point. And tangentially, we also, at one point, looked very carefully at the upper parking lot at the Fish Pier and considered time restrictions and paid parking there as well. And I know we've had some communications in recent months about the Fish Pier and Shore Road. I just want to sort of succinctly say what I distill from all of this, and I think it was an excellent report from the Cape Cod Commission. It was an excellent report from the working group. The key point for me is, and this sort of addresses that bank building thing, which I think we just sent up to the board in case we wanted to think about that, but I don't particularly favor that idea. But the Cape Cod Commission, who studied this and looked at the traffic movement and vehicles and pedestrians and bicycles, said, you've got enough parking in town. You just have to move the vehicles out of the downtown area, out of Main Street, out of these lots, into the off-site lots, namely places like the community center lot and the Stage Harbor Road lot, and possibly also, I think, the elementary school. I think that's really important to keep in mind. I think there were 3 improvements, recommendations that really should be adopted and put into place for next season. The first is paid parking. I know Jeff and I have been harping on this for a decade that I've been on this board. And that, I want to emphasize my view, and I think it's shared by the working group members, although it's not explicitly stated. If we do this, we should exempt from the payment and make parking free for any Chatham resident or taxpayer, just as we do in the Eldridge Garage lot. Secondly, the signage, the enhanced signage, I think that's something that probably makes a lot of sense. We have an awful lot of signs. I know we just put one up calling attention to the fact that there are EV stations at the Eldridge Garage lot. So probably that's worth doing. And the third is the shuttle. And it was pointed out to us that rather than trying to, rather than settling on sort of a new vehicle that is like a minibus as they have in the town of Plymouth, we looked at that. That's funded exclusively, I think, by the merchants up there. That probably is too big a vehicle, as small as it is for Main Street. And maybe the type of shuttle we should be talking about is what we have at the Eldridge lot. I know the proprietor of that service suggested that very strongly. Those are my initial thoughts on this, and I'm going to ask other members of the board. Jeff, since you were on, why don't you go next?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank the folks that have been participating in participated in the Parking Solutions Working Group for these so many years, it seems. For those folks that know me and have heard me proselytize and advocate for a shuttle for years here in Chatham, so I think the time has come. It's been, dubbed a great idea by Cape Cod Commission. I'd also like to add that I thought this report was one of the best reports that I've seen compiled in my tenure on the Select Board. I recall the magnus opus for the study of the former swim club that we received. That was an incredible report. But this is on a par. Just for the public's knowledge, the Cape Cod Commission did traffic counts, did pedestrian counts. They did an incredible amount of work to come up with the recommendations in this report. And I think they're very clear, very pointed, and really grounded in reality, literally grounded in reality. And also in the process, we were at times accused of not including the public or short-shrifting process here. But we've been looking at this for years, and we've had I think at least 2, if not 3, public forums to really bandy this about, plus active participation from the Chamber of Commerce and the Merchants Association. So this report has been well vetted, both with data and in reality and with the public and the downtown merchants, et cetera. So I echo Dean's support for paid parking, an exemption for taxpayers and residents of Chatham that would not pay for parking, in tandem with a free shuttle. I think it's very important to note that the shuttle ought to be free so that folks have the opportunity to get close to Chatham without having paid parking, but if they so desire to get close to downtown, to have paid parking downtown. And the signage is also, in my mind, getting consistent messaging, consistent formatting for our signage. I think is going to be a kind of a little bit of a pain in the butt. I think we do a lot of our own signs, and there'll be a budgetary impact, but I think now's the time to consider these recommendations and to decide which ones we want to implement, because they're going to have some budgetary implications as we go into budget season, which is shortly forthcoming. So I also think some of the other suggestions about lining community center and the drop-off zones downtown also make an awful lot of sense. So this report is full of common sense, and I'm really pleased to finally see it get on our agenda, and we act hopefully thereupon this evening. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Corey?
I mean, I don't know how exactly you want to have this conversation, segment by segment. I mean,
I'm open to suggestions if you want to do.
I've got a whole lot of thoughts about this.
Let's go.
I do too, so.
Okay, did you want to make any generalized comments first?
I'll make some,
I'll get to you in a second, Shireen, if you.
Just make a general comment. Full disclosure, I think everyone knows, I've had a business in downtown Chatham for 25 years. I've got a front door view of what's been going on. I've seen a lot of changes. I've seen some good, some bad, some uglies. I have some strong feelings. I'm definitely not in the camp of paid parking. I think it's gonna negatively impact the fabric of the downtown. I can expand on that a little bit later. I'm happy to do it. I appreciate the report, a wonderful report, a lot of data, but there's definitely some things that this report, you're not going to find in a report that you're going to find from people who are downtown who have either worked, lived, traveled, whatever. So I'm going to try to provide that a little bit later in our conversations. But, there's a lot of things that the report, didn't pick up on, unfortunately. So we do have a parking problem in the core part of the summer. There's no doubt about that, and it's evolving a little bit. But we also have vehicles that, and I can identify a handful of them that are, cars that are parked on Main Street year after year, day after day, that belong to residents in the general area. So they tie up spaces all day long. We don't really have any enforced parking regulations for overnight parking on Main Street, but they exist. So, maybe if we should address some of that, which would help some of the problem during the summer. I do agree we have enough spaces. I really do. I'm not really sure. I would like to get a better dialogue when it comes to employee parking, because I know for me firsthand, I evolve every summer. Some kids have licenses, some don't have licenses. So the ones that don't have licenses obviously get dropped off. The ones that do work the night shift, and usually they end up parking at the community building or Oyster Pond, or even further. That seems to be the trend for us. There's the delivery zone conversations. That's another dialogue I want to have, because if anyone's been downtown at all, there's some big old trucks that come by there, and sometimes there's two big trucks in the same area. So it's having a dedicated delivery zone may be helpful, but it may also not be helpful. But some of these guys just park where they want, I think, talking to other merchants, we try our best to try to get these delivery trucks in and out as early as possible, or outside of the core area, because these drivers do not want to be in the Main Street Chatham during the day. They want to be here early in the morning. So there's some work we can do as vendors, with the vendors, but there's also some limitations that we definitely do have. The shuttle conversation, I think, is long overdue. I can support it. We got to figure out the mechanics, the financial mechanics behind it. But I do think this is going to be a healthy conversation. I may be on opposing sides on elements of this. I very much look forward to the public speaking on this, but I'm looking forward to a very good dialogue on this.
Thank you, Corey. Stuart, do you have any generalized comments you want to make first, and then I'll go to Shireen, and then we'll take these one by one.
I don't think I have any generalized comments. I'm
Okay.
looking forward to getting into some more of the details, because I'm a late comer to this, but certainly long overdue.
Okay, thank you. Shireen?
Thanks, Dean, and I really appreciate the work that the working group has done on this in general. I'm in favor of the recommendations. One of the things I'd like to see is more of an expanded shuttle service, maybe to the Fish Pier and to the lighthouse. The sidewalk enhancements are a good bonus to add the Library Lane. I think that's a big missing crosswalk downtown, obviously. I'm not sure the paid parking at the Fish Pier would take away from what's going on down there with the volume of people, but certainly would be a revenue stream. However, I think I'm going to hold most of my specific comments to when we get into the each of the elements and add a little more to that. But thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I think what we'll do right now is we'll go back to pages 3 and 4 of the report that Katie did talk about in her slides, and perhaps we could put each slide up. And we'll have discussion from the board, and we'll entertain public comment on each of these one by one. And if someone from the public has comment on different items, they'll be permitted to speak separately on those items as we get to them. But we'll try to take these one by one. The first section is parking-related improvements, and there are 2 recommendations here that have been endorsed by the working group, and I know we have at least one member of the working group in the audience as well. I wanted to acknowledge that. The first is improved signage and wayfinding, and it's up on the board. I guess I'll ask if any board member has a comment or a question of Katie about this particular recommendation, and then we'll also entertain from the public, unless you want to hear from the public first. So up to you. Okay.
Shireen has her hand up, Mr. Chairman.
Who does?
Shireen.
Shireen, I'm sorry.
Yeah, as far as the improved signage is involved, I don't think we need additional signage. I think we need a lot of editing and consolidation of signage. So I'm in favor of the improved signage and wayfinding for downtown. I think it's a pretty no-brainer in my view.
I kind of feel the same way. Joan Craig?
Thank you. A member of the parking study group, thank you. And I appreciate all your comments because this group has been working diligently. With regards to the signage, I know it came out, and I think the group would be in consensus that there should be consistency with the signage, whether it be a color blue, color green, or whatever for specific things. I know there was some discussion and not considered consensus about Main Street signage for parking. Our group considered 3-hour parking because right now, I believe on the record it's 1 hour, but it's very difficult to enforce. We felt 3 hours was a.
Can we get into the time restrictions in the next item?
Okay, sure. But with regards to the signs, some individuals felt it would not look well. However, my sense is signage for parking downtown would be necessary. If you remember, we did do it and recently took down a sign that was very attractive in front of Bluefin, and we could have signs like that again that would notify people on both sides of the street that there would be specific parking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment on this particular recommendation regarding improving signage and wayfinding? John Holgren, and then Elaine Gibbs is online after that.
John Harlan, real quickie, the one sign that I think that definitely needs to be improved as far as making uniform or correcting it grammatically is Kate Gould Park and the 5 p.m. on Fridays, because there's a lot of people who get stuck there and they don't realize that. So that's one sign we should need to improve.
Okay, thank you. Elaine Gibbs.
Yes, thank you. We have too many signs in Chatham. They're everywhere. Nobody reads any of them. I think it just adds to the confusion. People are, sophisticated. They got their phones. If you're doing things on maps, showing them, they can go to their phone, find out where all the parking spaces are. The less, the better, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Stuart.
So this is on, so we started on page 8. Yeah, didn't we?
Well, I was actually looking at the cover memo, but it's the same thing, I think.
Yeah,
I was
mine
looking at the
says-
cover
okay.
number from Katie, which distills what's in the big report.
Yeah, mine.
Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted, what is, sounds like a dumb question, but what is perceived parking congestion? It says perceived and real parking congestion. Who's perceiving?
Where are you seeing that, Stuart?
I'm on
Page 8.
page 8, next steps, number one, under improve signage and wayfinding. It says perceived and real parking.
Oh, I see it now.
What is perceived?
Well, that's the word, that's the wording of the commission. I don't know what they,
I didn't know if there was like something
No,
else, something I
I
was
think there's a
missing.
real parking issue in July and August.
Yeah.
I think there
You can
is.
scratch the seat if you want.
Okay, I didn't know if
Real
I,
parking
It
congestion,
may,
we'll see.
I didn't catch that previously.
either.
I
It
did,
may reflect their notion that some potential visitors might be deterred from coming to Chatham because they perceive that there's a parking problem. That's probably a good thing.
guess I missed that, but okay.
I don't know, I'm speculating here, but a good point.
Okay.
You can scratch it.
And under number 2, parking regulations says implementing paid parking in the core parking lots.
Can
And
we, get that's the next item on.
Okay,
So
sorry.
I think I
I'll wait.
know what your question's going to be, but,
I know.
okay. Any other comments on this? Did we want to does the board want to take votes on these one by one, or do you want to do something at the end, if we take any votes at all? Jeff?
The signage is, what is being improved and communicated is going to be, we have some predicate issues, paid parking, not paid parking, shuttle availability, blah, blah, blah. So the signage may well change depending upon what we decide to do.
Okay.
So I think I see here consensus, everybody's, thinks improving of the consistency and editing and simplifying the signage in Chatham's a good thing. Its actual content will be,
Yeah,
it's predicated on what else we decide.
well, we can defer any kind of votes until the end if you want.
does, and does that, following up with you,
Yeah.
Jeff, do those, that edification come back to this board for review? Or do we just say, oh, yeah, we'd like them to be not any more signs? I kind of agree with Shereen that I think we have enough signs.
We have enough.
Katie, do you want to respond? I would think that if this board said, directed the town managers to simplify the signs, make them more uniform, reduce the number, I would think that the town manager would come back to us after working with the DPW and the police department and say, this is our plan as to how to do it.
And what they would say and what they would look like.
Yeah,
and-
perhaps,
yeah,
but
okay.
go ahead, Katie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's correct. And I think that in the report, or the beginning of the report, we suggested that a lot of this may be directed towards staff to come back, to research and then come back to the board with suggestions for implementation. So I think that that's the expected direction that we would be going.
Okay, so we would endorse these conceptually perhaps and
Then come back.
come back with an implementation
Thank you.
recommendation. Okay,
Just a minor point, we
Yes.
have actually reviewed signs in the past and approved them or blah, blah, blah.
okay. All right, so let's go to the next item, which is the parking regulations. We'll put that slide up. So this is the town should consider updating the parking regulations for the downtown. This does talk about time restrictions, paid parking in the core lots, and I know Stuart has a question on that, and doing something for the employee parking spaces. I just want to mention historically, I think it was just Corey, Jeff, and I who were on the board at the time. I think it was our first year, Corey, when we decided to implement a 1-hour parking or 2-hour parking. I can't remember what it was, and the merchants came back, they were pretty unhappy with that, and then there was a merchants parking group that was set up, then that was rescinded. But we do have a 1955 document that was adopted by this town, which limits parking downtown to, is it 1 hour? 2 hours, and it's just not enforced. So, okay. Any comments from the board first, or, yeah, go ahead. Jeff was first.
Well, I just, in terms of defining core parking lots, I think that's probably a question on everybody's mind. And I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but I think it was Orpheum, Town Hall, and Kate Gould. Those are
Yes.
those are the three
That's what
core.
we thought.
Those are what we're suggesting, so.
Those are the big lots downtown.
Town Hall, Orpheum, and Cape Gould. Just,
Corey?
So, it brings me to concern, if we identify those as the core parking lots and make those paid, then parking lots like community building, elementary school, Oyster Pond would be free, but it would probably be, become destinations for those avoiding the parking.
good?
Yes.
And then also serviced by a shuttle, perhaps.
Yes, the thinking was that get these people off of Main Street, let them park, encourage them to park at the community center or wherever, and be shuttled downtown.
Or they can
Free.
walk,
Or they can walk.
or have a shuttle.
That's the thinking of the group, I think.
And if we tried to motivate people to go down to the community building, is that going to be disruptive to the programs of the community building? Is having festivals and what have you not throughout the summers, are we creating a problem by doing this?
Well, there's no question there would be some impact, and that would have to be addressed with the Parks and Recreation Commission and town staff. I'm hoping we could also consider approaching the school department, the school district, and use the elementary school. There's some spaces over there. But you're right, it's a legitimate question.
Oh, I know, one little side note, the building that used to be the Rockland Trust Bank, there's no way in creation we should look at buying that for whatever ungodly dollar amount they're going to ask for it. And if anyone who's driven by in the summertime, people park there anyway right now, so it is free parking at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. I just kind of recoil at the prospect of knocking that building down and putting another parking lot. That's the first thing you see when you're going to town from the Rotary. Stuart?
Yeah, and that's kind of what was my thinking, but I was interested in whose ever idea that was,
I had forgotten I was in there, to be honest with you, until I read the report.
Oh, well, the parking, I mean, it's pretty clear because they say it throughout the report that we seem to have ample parking. I guess a little surprised, but okay. But then then somebody is recommending, or I guess some people in the working group or the working group is recommending that we look at purchasing the bank property.
Yeah, what you're looking at is the report of the commission itself.
Yeah.
And the working group, I think, on the bank property, just sort of passed that up to us to consider, because it was in the report of the Cape Cod Commission, but it's frankly, as Jeff and I sort of react to it.
If I might, it's not really a core recommendation. We threw it out there thinking, if you're thinking out of the box a little bit and getting creative, then that building is available. But I did want to respond to Corey's point about the community center filling up. If you look at pages 21, 22, 23, and 24, there's a study, different nights and different days of utilization and how full the community center lot is, even on angler nights, concert nights, craft fair days and nights, and a generic Monday and a generic Tuesday and the height of the year. And there's availability of parking except for a night when you're having the Anglers game so during the day, there's excess parking. There are spots available.
But if we implement timed limits on Main Street and enforce that, I do think you're going to start pushing more volume into some of these other lots. That would be a factor in how that all plays out.
I think it might, Corey, but I'm just making the point that there's a current availability to take up some of that increased demand, if you will.
Yeah. I personally, as far as the time limits on Main Street itself, I'm not particularly wedded to that personally, but individually, it's one of the recommendations. Stuart, did you have more? I thought you had a little bit more. I'm
Yeah, I have
sorry.
a few more. If
We got into this
we're ready.
community center stuff.
So we have a 2-hour parking limit downtown now that exists.
Yeah.
It's on the regulations, but we don't enforce that.
Right.
Is there a particular reason why we don't?
Does anyone remember?
Signage. The appropriate signage in place to have the PD be able to enforce it. That is the void.
I think historically, this select board has never really had the will to do it. And
I just find that, kind of odd that anyway.
and we tried once and we got
Not so much
pushback.
Yeah, it's just, in those types of instances, like beyond the 2-hour limit
Yeah.
on me, when we have bylaws or regulations that we like, deliberately don't enforce, I'm not particularly comfortable with that. I would just either enforce it or get rid of it.
I share that.
think
I
it's-
think one reason why it wasn't pushed is that some of those spaces are occupied all day by an employee or employees,
Yeah,
and we still haven't really resolved the employee parking problem.
right.
And I think people felt, well, until you deal with that, you have to deal with that first before you start enforcing. But you're right. And I think we're open to that. We're open to anything right now.
Right. And
Everything's on the table.
Great. And these 1955 or 65, I think it was 65, traffic rules and regulations that I believe are adopted by the board, I'm aware that there's been a number of efforts to kind of get that updated. Did that come up during this report? I know it's beyond the downtown, but it's related to it.
It didn't. I mean, it was acknowledged that set of regulations existed, particularly with reference to the parking limit, but no, it wasn't discussed in terms of proposing an update, but that's something that perhaps could be done.
Yeah, sorry, did you have something?
Katie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that Chief Anderson, during one of our meetings, said that if we were to impose time restrictions on Main Street and they differed from that report, then that would need to be
Yeah.
updated but that was the extent of that conversation.
Thank you.
So I think it would be helpful, and I don't want to suggest that it needs to be done in a month, but that we reintroduce that document to the board and assign that to somebody or some group of somebody's to, it's a big effort, I understand that, but I think it's important with not only here, but really the rest of the town on trying to, instead of playing badminton with some of these things, that we get something on paper and we actually either enforce it, or if we don't like it, we get rid of it.
That could be something that would be part of an implementation plan.
Right.
It's going to have, if I might, it's going to have to be because we're going to change stuff, so.
Yeah.
That'll be a whole new policy, if you will.
But that document goes all over town, which could be complicated.
Yeah.
So the other thing, it says, we identified the core parking lots as Town Hall, Kate Gould, and behind the Orpheum. Does that include the upper lot at the Fish Pier? Because I see paid parking.
Not yet.
No.
I see it mentioned here, but
Yeah,
we're
it's
kind of
Yeah,
putting
what
that.
happened here is when this group first started, they were looking very carefully at the Fish Pier, and then we decided to focus solely on the downtown area. Is that what happened? Because we did a lot of, we were interviewing people, these parking companies came in and presented, and we had some of the Fish Pier lessees, people that operate charters from there spoke, and then,
Yeah.
but then we shifted away from that. So the Fish Pier is really an issue. We all know it's an issue, but it's kind of tangential to the main thrust of this report.
Okay, they include it, but it's
Yeah,
kind of
they
off
did.
to the
Yeah,
side.
yeah.
I just wanted to point out that it's related to parking regulations, and it says somewhere in here that, there's no time restrictions at the upper lot at the Fish Pier, but
Right.
there is.
There are.
There are.
There's
And
signage there.
Well, there's a sign, they put the sign in the report, so there's just a misunderstanding there.
Okay.
The third, I'm just going down the list here.
Right ahead.
Incorporating employee parking spaces into the town, I think, well, I guess I'm stating the obvious, that needs to be resolved, because it's kind of having them park on Main Street.
My understanding is, apropos of that topic, that the Merchants Association of the Chamber has made arrangements with the Catholic Church to have parking. I see vehicles parked there during the day. I don't know who they are. Is that going on, Katie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I believe that for the past couple of years, there's been an arrangement with, it's the Holy Redeemer, and that their employees of downtown businesses are able to park there, I think, if I'm not mistaken, each day but Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. So, and if I could, Mr. Chairman, I apologize, but There's one more bullet where the word formalize would start. I somehow missed bulleting that out,
So that's a separate.
So it's a separate bullet.
The striped parking
right.
spaces and the drop-off.
Right.
Okay.
I just wanted to point that out. I apologize.
Stuart?
It's actually, I think you did capture it on 8. Anyway, I see it right now.
Yeah.
In any event, implement additional EV charging stations to the downtown core. I guess that means core parking lots? Those 3 that we mentioned?
But that's not in, that's in the Cape Cod Commission report, but it's not in the recommendations that were endorsed by the working group. Is that correct, Katie? It's not in there. It's not something that I personally approve.
Right, that's correct, Mr. Chairman. So the staff report brings out the recommendations of the Parking Solutions Working Group, not necessarily all of the recommendations of the Cape Cod Commission. So they had recommended next steps and suggestions, and we brought those to the Parking Solutions Working Group, and the group determined which of those that they would endorse and not endorse. And so the group did not endorse additional EV charging stations in the downtown core lots at this time because of the number of units at the Eldridge Garage lot.
Yeah, my own personal thinking on it is and was, we've got 8 units over there now. They are being used. I don't know how extensively, but I've seen some usage, and I've asked the valet people, and they tell me they're being used. But if we're trying to keep vehicles out of the downtown, I don't know if we want to attract a whole lot more.
Yeah,
I know there are, environmental benefits and all of that, I understand that, but they're there. I'd like to see how they work before we make any determinations going forward to add more downtown.
right, and I would agree. I'm curious, those EV stations, we can go up and we can chat with the folks that run it and see how many people use it, but is there a log? Is there a electronic log that tracks how much you?
Yes, actually, I believe working through our energy manager, I think they're getting reports from Flow, the company that, the proprietary company that the units are, the charging stations are.
Right, good, yeah, well, because that'll be helpful for future
And some of that
evaluation.
money comes back to the town, some of it.
Right,
or
that
all of it?
money is coming, yes, it's coming back to the town.
Okay.
All right,
Getting that report, just to your point, would be indicative of a need for more supply or less supply, either downtown or elsewhere.
exactly.
I think we see that data, and I think we saw it for the first time in the town manager's monthly report.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stuart,
So
anything
we
else?
get that in the report.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so I'm going to throw it open to, Shireen, I'm sorry, I keep forgetting you're there, Shireen, sorry.
It's okay. My apologies for being remote tonight. So a couple of things that I thought were poignant to point out is, as far as the conflict use at the community building, anytime this summer you just drove by, I thought there was a good utilization of the community center parking area already. So I think that we should really embrace utilizing that with a shuttle. Again, the time limit, I'm kind of torn on the time limit for downtown. I'm not sure how that would be enforced per se. What kind of, it could be a recommendation, and yet again, another sign kind of thing. But one of the things that I thought that I've been noticing is the municipal parking at 449 Main Street for that parking lot. I think we should set a policy to enforce that employees park on the employee designated areas rather than the middle part of the parking lot as some do. I think that would help free up space for people and it would be a better use of the area for the public. I think the other things, the formalized striped parking spaces at Depot and Main, I think is really, really sort of a no-brainer again, as well as the drop-off and loading zones for vehicles at the Orpheum. So thanks.
Thank you.
One other.
Yes, Stuart.
Shireen reminds me, the paid parking, I know we'll probably chat more
Yeah.
about the paid parking, but something to consider is that the paid parking go to a dedicated account that has a dedicated use instead of getting lost into the general fund. whether that dedicated, whatever the dedicated use is, there's a lot of good causes that we, improve
No,
parking, I don't know.
Yeah, we could consider that, yeah?
Absolutely, yep, yep.
Okay, so I'm going to turn, I'm going to go online first, and then we'll come back to the in-house. I don't know who was first, but I'm going to go with Elaine Gibbs, and then Stephen Buckley, and then Joan Craig. Elaine Gibbs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, I didn't see anywhere listed how many spaces on Main Street there actually are. It seems like you have to know that number before you start giving them away to people.
I think we have an answer to that, Elaine, before you continue.
Okay,
Katie, what are they?
142.
Okay.
and so that goes from the Rotary all the way down to what, Shore Road, or just the highly dense area?
I believe it
Just
goes,
all the way to School Street?
I think it goes to School Street.
yeah. I think
It's not
that the
many
actual
people.
parking on-street ends just, yeah, I think it's right around the tail of the cod,
Yeah, that's where it ends.
and that's where the striped on-street parking
there's 142
ends.
And there are 142 in that area on
That's
both
what they
sides of the
counted.
street?
That's what they counted.
That seems, okay. All right, well, having said that, I don't think we should be designating any employee parking on Main Street. It should be in one of, down, in one of the other parking areas, because it's just too congested, and they would be there for, 6, 8 hours at a time. The other thing is, I think it's counterintuitive to say we're going to have free parking on Main Street, and then we're going to pay, people have to pay in all the remote parking lots. We're trying to change people's behavior. And I think what you have, first of all, I think Main Street, there should be parking meters so that people do not sit there all day. They leave their car, they go to the beach, they do all kinds of things, and that's what's going to happen. In addition to the fact, if it's free, and all the other ones, people are going to drive around and go, oh, we have to pay for all these, and they keep driving down Main Street waiting for a parking space to open, which increases the congestion of
Elaine,
the traffic.
could I just interrupt for a second? Because I'm not sure the understanding was correct. The off-site, it would be the core parking lots, the 3 that were mentioned, where there would be paid parking. But
Correct.
parking at the community center and Oyster Pond or the elementary school, whatever, those would be free. So I just really wanted to check.
But I guess I think that to charge people core parking where they have to walk further than Main Street, I mean, it is less desirable.
Mm-hmm.
I think Main Street should have paid parking that will incentivize people to move their cars.
On the street,
Because they're
you
not
mean?
getting ticketed.
You mean on
Yeah,
the,
on
on
Main-
the street?
on-
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
on Main Street.
Okay.
There should be metered parking. And then in the other, even in the core parking areas, it would be free. I think it has to be reversed because you're trying to change people's behavior and get them off of Main Street. I also don't think there should be any bicycles on Main Street. They go down the center of the road. Nobody can get by. It causes further congestion. Let's see. There's no as far as I know, out of those 142, are there any handicap spaces? Because I don't believe they are. Because if anyone should not have to walk from the core parking lots, it should be handicapped people.
Katie, are there any, can you answer that question?
I don't believe that there are any handicap spaces along Main Street.
Okay.
That's another part of the recommendations.
Yeah, that really is important. And are we going to talk about the shuttle or not at this point?
That's coming up later.
Okay.
Okay.
And again, no bikes and no Rockland Trust. That building's assessed at $2.4 million.
Yeah, I don't
For crying
think,
out loud.
I don't
Yeah,
think,
those are expensive parking spaces.
I don't think there's a serious interest in that. Thanks.
Yeah, and it would be what an eyesore.
Yeah.
Like, welcome to Chatham, here's a parking lot. Okay.
All right, thank
That's
you.
all I have for now then, thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Buckley.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make sure I understand what formalized striped parking spaces is on Depot and Main Street. I'm hoping it's what I think it is, but I just want to confirm that before I comment. Is that individual spaces? Is that?
Yes, I think that was the recommendation, to line these
There's a visual in the package that has.
Jeff.
There's a visual in the package, Steve, I don't know if you have it, but it's areas of parking. I don't know if they're lined per se, but you can clearly see that there's parking available along the south side of Depot in Maine.
They're just not lined.
They're just, they're not lined, for individual vehicles, but parking areas are delineated.
Okay.
Clearly.
Okay, I did not see that drawing, so now
Yeah.
I know, because during this whole process, that had been my pet suggestion, was to stripe it, to have individual parking spaces, because, and I think it was actually mentioned in the draft earlier this year, but then I looked in this report in the final, and that's why I was afraid it had dropped off the radar. And to me, that, I mean, you could walk every 100 feet that I would walk down during the summer, there'd be an extra parking space at the beginning or at the end, where there's like half or 3/4 of a parking space because somebody didn't pull all the way up, or somebody didn't pull all the way back. And, I would think you want to do that because, so anyway,
Page 44.
you lose probably 10% of those 142 parking spaces just by doing something as simple as that. And we're not talking about signs, we're talking about just striping. And I mean, people understand. I see it in other places where they say, okay, here's your parking space. Can you see if you can get in between these two spots? And it just creates, I think it's the cheapest, easiest, fastest way to create spaces out of what we already have, just using them more efficiently. And it's not like you have to educate people about how to park.
Thank you,
Between the stripes.
Anyway,
I see there's a. So go ahead. Did I?
Go ahead.
Thank you.
And I guess it's not. So okay, it was. I just want to clarify. I see the space, but unfortunately, my screen is so small I can't see it. So that somehow fell out of the hopper. The suggestion of individual spaces.
It's on page 44 of the main report, I guess, figure 20. That's on the screen.
So
right
it
now.
is.
Okay.
So it is in there? Is that correct, Mr. Chair? It is in there?
Yeah, it's on page 40.
Page 44, Stephen.
If you look at
Okay.
the main report, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen. And is that you, Nicole Stern? It just says N.
Yes, it is me. I forgot the S. Sorry about that. I'm just going to speak to Main Street because it gets a little confusing with all the other areas we're talking about. But I've seen meters. I know we haven't gotten into meters yet, but I can imagine that if we had meters on Main Street that use credit cards or whatever they're doing these days, and you can put a limit on it if you want to. You can make it 2 hours, you can make it 3 hours, but the person who's parking there can choose to use their charge card and only do 15 minutes because that's all they need, or only do an hour. And if they go over that time, then their credit cards are automatically registered, and I think they're automatically charged whatever the fine is. I've lived with marked tires for a long time, and I can tell you, first of all, it costs a lot of money to have somebody coming and checking them all the time. I'm sure these meters aren't inexpensive either, but I'd rather see it spent there. That would also eliminate the problem that we seem to have with employees, because there's no way that I think they're prepared to pay a fine for being there for 7 hours.
Okay.
And I believe it will register how much over your time you are, and that's how you're fined.
Okay.
So that was just an idea that I just wanted to share.
All right. Thank you, Nicole. Joan Craig.
You're welcome.
Again, Joan Craig, thank you. Just a couple of comments based on what I have heard. Mladen, and I apologize, I cannot pronounce his last name, but he was very verbal during many of our meetings about offering services, and I know it would have to go out if we didn't do it in-house with regards to increasing the work that he does.
He owns, just for the public, he owns the valet service.
Exactly, and he also works with a large inn here in town, for which he tries to get those employees to use the church parking lot, and he picks up and drops off. He has said in the past it hasn't been as successful. A lot of your employees will not walk that far, so the area that the church has designated is better as far as the numbers, but it's nowhere near what it could be. As mentioned by you, Mr. Chair, the biggest issue is employees parking there all day, and also beach people who are parking there all day and walking down to the beach. With regards to deliveries and drop-offs, it has been mentioned to have it equally on both sides of the street, but designate them so that if there's someone parking on, and I don't know if it's north or south, east or west, I'm not good at that, but let's say someone's parked at the Orpheum for drop-off and pickup and for delivery, then on the left side, further down on the road, you could have drop-off and pickup there, and stagger it throughout Main Street. With regards to Main Street, and if you did make the decision to charge for Main Street, as the previous speaker said, with regards to meters, the idea of a meter for each spot is not necessary. Now, with the apps that you can have 1 meter for a zone, and that meter is where you can punch in your credit card, your license, put in the time, and then if you're running over that time, you can go right into your app and increase the time. There are new ones since we looked at that, and we looked at Passport. A group came in with regards to Passport, which is an app for your phone, and many of us have that. There's another one where you don't even have meters. You have, and I know it would require individuals to do this, but I don't know if it would be the company that would do it, where they actually paint on the road curbing, and you use a QR code, and you just do the same thing. You QR code it, there is no meter, and then there will be a box, for lack of a better word, somewhere situated where individuals who are hired for this service can help if there is an issue. I have to read my writing. The fish pier was initially on the list, but I think we also put it aside because there was construction happening there. And so we made the decision that we really couldn't look at what should or could be done because we didn't know what was going to happen on the road itself. One of the other issues with regards to public parking in the public areas, there are areas where there are private parking lots that are but public parking lots, so that we know is going to be an issue that would need to be addressed. Another issue I'm throwing out is we never voted on it, but Oyster Pond is another area where, if necessary, because a lot of people park at Oyster Pond but walk to town, and a lot of people are going to other beaches and paying to go to the beach. So Oyster Pond is another area, in my opinion, where we could, if we did go the route of paid parking, that you could do it there too.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Jonah, just a couple of comments relative to meters on the street. And as you pointed out, the newer technologies are more aesthetically pleasing than to have.
Absolutely.
You know, when I was growing up, it was fashionable to have individual meters at every parking space in a downtown parking lot in the various cities and towns. And we don't really seem to do that anymore, for good reason. With respect to, you don't have to stand there, Joan, I'm just.
I do have one other
Okay.
comment, but go ahead.
With respect to the employees, I think it's important to mention that not every business downtown belongs to the chamber. or the CMA. Most of them do. So there are some businesses that would have to be brought into a discussion about what to do with employee parking. I assume that the chamber has a financial arrangement with the Catholic Church, and I would think the Catholic Church would welcome additional revenue to make it possible for employees to park there, and if there were a companion shuttle, that might make it more workable. The last thing I wanted to mention in the packet, we did have a letter from the Orpheum Theater recommending the drop-off zone at the corner of what was the Ben Franklin, I think, is that little byway. I think that's where they want. They do express some concern about timed parking on Main Street, and they feel it would be a negative impact on business. But go ahead, Joan, your final point.
Well, one of the issues that has come up is should we have paid parking at all? And I think, like it or not, we are a destination. And so many areas that are destinations do paid parking. And the first time you come in after coming here for years, you might be surprised, but people are used to paid parking. It's nothing new, it's just new here. And if we want to do what is recommended, it's going to be costly. And in order to have that cost recommendation, you have to have something to pay for that. And I think paid parking is one thing. And the previous gentleman spoke about where is that money going to go? And we spoke with Provincetown a number of years ago about this very issue. And at that time, they were bringing in $2 million per year, of which $1 million was designated for the paid parking issues, paying the people who were involved in that. The other $1 million went into the general fund. So I just wanted to bring that up, too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Corey.
I'm going to throw a couple comments out there. I'm probably going to get myself in trouble, but here I go. A couple things. One, again, 25 years downtown. I've seen, for decades, some of my fellow shop owners parking on Main Street day after day for a good portion of the day, year after year. I've never felt it as a negative impact on my business. I mean, it's just kind of part of the operations. People come, they go. I think people are found Chatham as a destination. They're going to park and they're going to walk around, and they're not grumbling really that much. We got to be providing them an opportunity to park in a realistic area, but we don't need to give them front door service. When it comes for, I was losing my train of thought a second. The parking. Time limits on Main Street too. I would rather see more businesses being able to park on Main Street during the day, because the turnover, it is very entertaining seeing people park during the day. I mean, and they park in various spots, overlapping. So I think less turnover on Main Street sometimes, one could argue, has some benefits because people don't know how to utilize the spots. I was actually going to ask a question. I recall, and I'm trying to remember the details. This was when Chief Paulina was our chief. There was a parking study about whether we were to stripe the parking spaces and actually dedicate them dimensionally. And wasn't there some flaws with that? I'm trying to remember the details behind that one.
Through the chair, I was not here at the time, but what I do recall from what I read was that the space wasn't consistent necessarily with the size of a parking space. So the spaces that were available for parking was not specific to, that you could get so many spots in each, white outlined area. So I think that was part of the issue. But again, there may be other issues that I'm not aware of because I wasn't here.
There was some conversation back then, and I was the board liaison to the Merchants Downtown Parking Group when the board rescinded the 1 hour or whatever we voted back in 2015 or 16. There was some concern that if you have a space determined to be the size of most cars, that somebody would put a motorcycle in there, or somebody would put a try to put a much larger car in there. I don't remember Chief Polina's comments, but it's always an issue when you do stripe the spaces as to, what the size of the vehicle is. Of course, right now, there's no regulation because there's no striping, so someone will leave a considerable space behind and ahead of their car because they don't want somebody else bumping into them. But I don't remember anything beyond that.
Okay. The last comment I do want to make is, obviously, if we're going to implement paid parking, we're doing it because we're offering people coming to town, the opportunity to go shop, eat at our restaurants, do activities, whatever, in the general area. A clear observation that I've seen, at least the last 3 or 4 years, is our window of that high volume is not only shrunk for, late June, July, August, it is shrinking throughout the day, because if you go downtown at 7 o'clock at night, on pretty much any night of the week, you're going to find Main Street parking. Less shops are open later. We've lost some restaurants. Certain businesses, unfortunately, have closed. So we have less amenities, and unless we kind of correct some of that or maybe rethink some of that, I'm personally afraid that we're going to see less people coming down, which I think some people may want, seeing less people coming to town. But conversations I've had with a lot of visitors over the last couple of years is, why are shops staying open later? What happened to this restaurant? What happened to this? And if these amenities either dwindle or disappear, we're not going to have to worry about parking because people aren't going to be coming. Probably not anytime soon. Hopefully not. But it is kind of that conversation that I've seen.
There is some, I noticed this because I live downtown, there is some diminishment in the population in the later afternoon. If you, even on a very bright sunny day, you'll see fewer cars and fewer pedestrians at around 3 o'clock than you saw at 11 or 12 o'clock. But I can tell you, as someone who lives pretty close to Main Street, that the last several seasons, at the height of the season, have been impossible as a pedestrian and as a driver. And I'll be very blunt. I would like to see paid parking for 2 reasons. 1, to help alleviate this problem, and 2, I want the money. And we're asking, we undertake considerable infrastructure commitments in this town for a whole lot of reasons, including for tourists. We spent a lot of money on the fish pier deck. We didn't have to do that. We could have shut it down and said, we're not going to let tourists at the fish pier anymore. We're just going to cater to the commercial use. But we wanted to make it an enjoyable experience. We're spending money on the boathouse. And that's going to, somebody said to me yesterday, they visited the Upweller. There were only, 7 or 8 parking spaces there. So I think I'd like to see us, benefit as Provincetown does, as many of the other communities do. So that's where I'm coming from. But I respect you have literally a window on Main Street. You're in a position to give us a perspective that none of the rest of us have. Stuart, you wanted to say something?
Well, I was just going to ask Corey, because I don't visit Main Street, at all. I try not to visit Main Street in the summer. But I kind of have noticed that there seems to be a traffic dwindling in the, later on in the evening, let's say 7. And I was curious as to, is it because we have less restaurants? And do we? I forget which one's closed, but why would you think that?
My general observation is, yes, we've lost. Well, I notice it more from the Rotary to Cross Street. That section at night seems to be much quieter. We obviously used to have the restaurant above 595 Main Street. That moved in the back. The restaurant is still there, still thriving, but it has a different Main Street feel. We don't have many food establishments like dining, like further downtown. You got the Squire, you got the Wild Goose, you got the Oyster. So there's definitely more foot traffic and activity down there later in the night. Definitely clear as day. I think since COVID, a lot of shops are closing earlier. And when I mean earlier, I mean like 6, 7, the 9, 10 o'clock activities that had been, you know, I remember 11 o'clock days, they're long gone. So there is less there's less activities, but less shops are open. You know, during the summertime, obviously, I think, my opinion, you know, nights for angler games are very busy because you have a lot of the younger crowd that will walk into town maybe a little bit. But they, you know, the games obviously draw a large crowd in. But once that happens, you know, even Friday night used to be the end all be all night.
Right.
That is not the case anymore.
Mr. Phillips?
Ryan Phillips, 374 Orleans Road. Is this going to have to go through town meeting?
Well, anything that requires an expenditure of money is going to have to go to town meeting. There would be warrant articles, I would assume, or it would be in the budget.
Okay.
In terms of implement. What I'm anticipating, I mean, I can't say what my fellow board members are going to do, but as I'm listening to this conversation, and we've got 2 more areas to talk about, I would anticipate possibly the board sort of tasking the town manager and her staff to develop an implementation plan that's consistent with the discussion tonight and come back to us with that plan for approval. And the plan would include the cost of what these items would be and how they would be funded. And some of that would almost certainly have to go to town meeting.
Okay, I guess my second question is, you said residents are exempt. Now,
That's what I said.
Or, along those
That's
lines,
what we
would
do
it be
over-
like the
that's
parking lot where you have to have, like the beach parking sticker?
Yeah, that's what they do, whatever they do at the Aldridge Garage. You know,
That seems.
resident can park there for free, or taxpayer can park there for free, a summer
We
resident.
still got to pay for the sticker, but,
Yeah, well, I understand that.
and then my third question is, for these parking lots, how is it going to be done? What kind of paid parking is it going to be? Is it going to be meters? And I think that's like a big part of whether it's going to be acceptable or not. Because if you put meters everywhere, even just a couple, 4 spots.
Yeah, I
I mean, I
don't,
think that's kind of a lot of steel.
yeah, I agree with you. I think we would look at whatever the staff is recommending back to us. As Joan Craig said, there are a lot of new technologies now that don't require meters.
Because I was a security guard at the bus station up in Hyannis, and what they did there is you kind of go in and you just punch in the kiosk and you get your thing for the day.
Yeah,
So, I mean, if you do something like that where it's like really low impact.
yeah.
And you don't see, you know, the thing everywhere, I think, you know, I'd be a little more open-minded to it, I guess. Not that my opinion really matters that much, but, so, I mean, I guess that was my other question, because,
Okay.
I mean, meters, I think, would be a tough sell.
I think meters are a thing of the past. I think it's
Well, I mean, she's talking about using an app. Like, I don't know really how to use apps too well, so I wouldn't be able to.
well, I use the one like in Plymouth or downtown at the harbor in Barnstable, and you just park, you get a ticket, you put it on your dash, and off you go.
Okay. But we're not going to endorse any particular technology
Right.
tonight. It's just whether conceptually we want to have paid parking. That's what's.
So, I mean, I do have an open mind to it with the kiosk and low impact
I
or something
think
along those lines.
think
But I
that-
guess I do, part of me feels that, you know, part of the charm of Chatham, you know, and some of these small Cape towns, that there is no paid parking. And when you start to do paid parking, it kind of seems like we're turning into like an Atlantic City type destination area.
It's a pretty expensive charm on the taxpayer
Yeah,
right
well,
now.
we got some money here, right? Thanks.
Mr. Holgram, and then I'm going to just come back to the board on this one because I want to take up the next.
Yes, John Holgren again from South Chatham, and obviously, you know, I prepared, see? I was just wondering how those 142 spaces were computed, because when I was looking up to see what is the average length of a parallel parking space, I was finding various numbers. One of the most common numbers I found was 23 feet, which allows for 19 feet for the vehicle and 4 feet for a gap in between. Now, it also, I've came across, it said an average car length is basically around 15 feet. Well, I know in Florida once, there was where they have delineated parking spaces. You have Ford F-150 and they had a smart car. Obviously, the pickup truck took the whole thing. The smart car was like, okay, what are we gonna do with the rest of the space? And I believe that ties back to what Mr. Mender said, was what, I think it was Chief Folina who said that if you delineate the parking spaces, you will reduce the overall capacity because there'll be a lot of wasted space. And that could be used, you know, by other vehicles. And so I was like, okay, well, let's just do a quick example here and see. If we have a 23-foot space and we take 5 of them, that's 115 feet. Now, if we took the average vehicle size of 15 feet and added the 4 feet buffer and did that, that's 95 feet. So you got 20 feet difference there. Well, that 20 feet could certainly accommodate another vehicle. So I think somewhere around the 5 to 6 vehicle length is where you have the potential to pick up an additional space simply by allowing the helter-skelter parking. And yes, there is some wasted space sometimes at the beginning, at the end, but, you know, I think it's sort of a trade-off, so.
Thank you for making that point. I personally am not, as I said before, not wedded to striping
Right.
Main Street. I could see striping, we have striping in the, don't we? Well, I guess we don't, over at the community center, but, which is one of the recommendations, but, you know, I think you're probably going to lose more capacity by striping than if you don't.
Right, because, I mean, there are people who, okay, and now with these automated parking cars, you know, that they're,
Yeah.
well, my car will fit in there, and I can't fit it, you couldn't drive it in there, but the car will drive itself in there, and so,
Right.
you know. And
Thank
then
you.
the other downside was then you would you'd have to maintain the parking lines. Well, that's more work for DPW, and obviously, you know, there's a lot of parking lines around here that aren't too well done, so. Thank you.
Thank you, John. So let me just ask the board, you know, on the signage and wayfinding, we seem to have some consensus about the way to go. On this one, and again, I don't want to presume to speak for the whole board, but I'm assuming we want to task town manager to do something. We have to give her some direct guidance. On this issue of the parking regulations, the time restrictions on Main Street, the paid parking, we do have kind of a split on the board here. So is there consensus to, let me just throw this out, and I guess it's directed more at Corey. Would there be consensus to ask the town manager to come back with an implementation recommendation or an implementation plan for us to consider for paid parking that doesn't sort of carve in stone that we're going to have it? Or do we take a vote tonight on whether we want paid parking or not? We need to give some direction to.
Well, I guess I have for a very long time not been very warm and fuzzy about paid parking. I have a lot of fundamental issues, philosophical, changing the fabric of town, putting us in a direction of a town that we don't want necessarily, may not necessarily want to become. I know other communities have it. I mean, there's communities I avoid going on a more regular basis because of the paid parking. It's just, you know, I think we got to be careful what we're looking to achieve. And for me personally, I don't want to say, I know there's an expense, and we got to factor that in, seriously. But I don't want this to be a money grab type of, prospect. I want to understand what we're doing and where our goal is, because I do think there could be some downside in this. I truly do. So I'm going to say I'm going to be supporting paid parking. And then some of these other elements, I mean, I'm more worried about enforcement, to be honest with you, because, if we do 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, how do we enforce it? I mean, I was the one who voted against that 1 hour parking way back when, because of that very same issue. And then, when we start talking about the core lots and the non-core lots, I mean, you've been to a ball game in the summer and see the parking jobs that people do. They park in every little green space imaginable. They're not parking spots. They're the islands. So are we going to enforce that as a violation? So there's a whole bigger conversation of how we were going to implement this if we choose to go in these directions. So I'm not on board yet.
Okay, Stuart?
So the paid parking, I've been chatting about this for a long time. What is the position of the people that have to deal with these parking issues? Like, and I'm thinking the folks downtown, the business owners, the merchants, and the I guess the chamber, I guess the merchants, both. did they ever take a position, or?
Well, they're not here tonight. I'm surprised. Historically, they were very much against paid parking. I think that was the general thrust. I don't know if they ever took votes. I have heard in more recent years, especially from the executive director who was part of this group, that there was greater receptivity to it. I think it's still mixed, but I don't know for sure.
Because a lot of it, from my perspective, well, it's going to come down to those people that have to live with these issues. Some of them live down there.
Yeah.
I mean, not
Yeah.
just the folks that have businesses, what is how do we get their perspective, and, what is their thinking on this? They're the ones that got to deal with it every day, and,
Yeah,
I can avoid Main Street for July and August.
Their concern was, as I understood it, based largely that it would discourage people from
Yeah,
shopping here.
right.
They would lose business. Their other concern had to do with employees, employee parking.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all.
Does Harwich Port has parking paid parking in one lot, right? That's behind the chamber?
Is that where it is? I don't know what they do.
No?
I believe that lot is free,
Free?
Yeah, is it free? Okay. So they don't have any paid parking down Harwich Port?
not to my
It's a
knowledge.
fairly large lot.
It is fairly large, yes.
Yeah, it is, it is. I thought it was, okay, so, and Orleans downtown, I'm just trying to think, as other communities relive this, and, do they have a perspective? Like, I'm trying to think, is Orleans downtown, I don't know of any paid parking.
I don't know of any there either.
Yeah.
The post office is, I know
Dennis
it's free,
Port, I don't
believe.
see it. I mean, I see, like, Provincetown,
Yeah.
that's a big one, Barnstable, or Hyannis.
Dennis has paid parking at Situate,
Situate.
Situate, I mean.
Yeah, the harbor, yep.
The North Street parking lot in Hyannis is free, I believe.
The one down at the harbor, you
Parking down by the
pay.
harbor's all-
You're-
it's all-
Pay.
Parking down by the harbor's all pay, you gotta
Yeah,
pay,
oh,
you
yeah.
gotta pay.
Oh, yeah, believe me, yeah.
And I heard somebody say that some community, I guess it was Provincetown that they made $2 million, half goes to expenses. It's a lot of expenses, by the way, $1 million. And the other half goes to the general fund. That I would be very concerned with. I think it needs
Well, I think she said the half went to the sort of, to support the infrastructure, is that?
yeah, one for $1 million, and then the other $1 million went to the
Yeah.
general fund.
Yeah.
And my only point, I'll just reiterate that, I'd be concerned about, I'm not sure that would interest me. But I would like to, I don't know whether, due respect to the working group, they put a lot of time into this, but I don't know who was listening to you folks. I don't know who, people just don't tend to, this room should be filled. All I hear is parking complaints, and there's nobody here. And I think might be helpful to have a formal public hearing on this report, the recommendations, that maybe we would get people here to comment more than the 4 that are here and 2 are semi-employees.
We did have a forum, and there were merchants there
Yeah.
that showed up, and some supported it and some did not. It was mixed. And I believe the same thing was true. We had 2 forums, Joan, 2. One of them was sponsored by the Cape Cod Commission, by the group. We did hear, they were notified and they showed up. The one time they showed up in force was 10 years ago when we installed a 1-hour parking limit, and they really showed up.
On Main Street?
On Main Street.
Yeah.
And they asked us to rescind it, and they.
Of course, that existed.
Yeah, and then they actually went to work on trying to get people to park at the community center. They put out kiosks with maps to how to get to downtown, and there were people parking there. I could see them walking down to downtown. But,
Because I agree with you folks that it just seems logical to me that, but I don't work down there.
I know.
That you would want 2-hour or whatever parking, you would want a time limit on Main Street. But if if the merchants don't care, it's affecting them. It's not affecting the rest of the folks in the community. So, you know, I think we have to consider that.
I think if I were,
If I might, Dean.
go ahead.
Please.
Go ahead, Jeff.
So the merchants were in support of paid parking, and they turned it around a bit. They were not initially.
Oh.
But in our last meeting, it even says in the report that support from merchants, the members of the working group expressed being impressed by the support from local merchants for paid parking, viewing it as beneficial for the downtown area. So there was some support from the merchants, and it was increasing support, to be frank with you, to be honest with you. And we have worked on this for 2 or 3 years now, or even longer. And I believe it's been well vetted. I'd like to move that we endorse as a board paid parking in the core lots as described. And my ear is much warmer to an application-based metered approach to Main Street. It would prompt turnover. It would also prompt those folks who want to stay a longer time on Main Street, they would pay for it. So if they want to eat, they want to shop, they want to go to the beach, okay, here's your app. You want to sign up for 4 or 5 hours and go to the beach, you're going to pay for it. So I think that's a fairer, a more equitable approach. If we're going to charge in the core lots, why would we exclude Main Street, if you will? I don't mean to throw a monkey wrench into this, but it makes more logic to me to have a metered approach without meters, but an app approach to parking along Main Street. And then the 142 Mr. Hallgren, is on page 43 and 44 of the report where they measure the spaces, and it's from the Rotary down to 443 Main Street. It's both sides of the street. So I think we need to take a stand, if you will, or a statement or an endorsement of paid parking. Otherwise, we're not going to get anywhere in this thing. And we've studied it exhaustively. We can't do any more of an exhaustive study than what the Cape Cod Commission has delivered to this board and to this town. So anyway, that's what I'd like to do.
All right,
Jeff, we're the government. We can study things to death.
I know, we'll never get,
I
but
think
we
you said
have done this forever.
I think you said I would offer a motion, so I'm not sure whether you did or didn't.
I offered a motion. I'm
Okay.
offering a motion to
Before
endorse paid
before
parking.
that's seconded, I just wanted
Okay.
I wanted to say one thing. There was some comment at these forums from some of the merchants, a small number, and I know one in particular, that it's unfair to have free parking in the core lots when you're charging at the Eldridge Garage.
I agree.
And this disadvantages in the minds of those folks, the folks that have businesses down that end of town. There aren't too many, but there are some. And it's a good, well taken point. So,
And I can appreciate
But
that.
that's-
I guess, how is, sorry, I haven't been
No,
here.
go ahead.
But how is the Eldridge Garage parking? Are we making, I drive by occasionally and doesn't seem to be many people there. Are we,
it seemed to be better this summer, but we had to, because there really wasn't much of a margin. What's the arrangement with Mladen?
So the original contract called for a small monthly fee, and then the town received a per-car percentage for each car that parked in the lot. And in this recent contract, we actually just went to a higher monthly fee. So I apologize, I think it's $5,000 in June, July, and August, and maybe $1,000 in May and
yeah.
500? Okay. But we went to just a baseline, and we increased the fee so that the town was getting that specific money each month.
And I'm sure it's somewhere, but I don't mean to put you on the spot, but is there, at the end of the year, what do we collect there?
I can get you the
Yeah,
numbers for what we've done in the past, and, then what we're
15 to
looking at.
20,000?
I think we're close to, I think it's about 13,000.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, okay.
That was the recommendation that came from the special committee that recommended the Eldridge Garage project. And they said,
Right.
well, let's get some paid parking to help, defray the cost of putting that together. And Shireen, you have something you wanted to say.
Yeah, I had my hand up a while ago.
I'm sorry,
It's okay.
they've got your
No,
picture very small on the screen, so I'm not noticing it. I apologize.
Yeah, it's okay, Dean. It's again, I apologize for
That's
being
all right.
remote. What I wanted to say is, I want to continue the conversation about the paid parking. I'm not sure I'm in favor of the Main Street sort of concept, but definitely the satellite parking areas would be, you know, the group, the report recommends that we look, you know, we take this on. I mean, the work has been done, and I think we need to continue the conversation going forward. Jeff has a motion on the table, and I'm happy to second it if it continues and moves things forward for tonight.
Okay, so I'll take that as a second. I just wanted to say, and I look at this category of parking regulations, for me, what I would be happy with, it would be paid parking, something to deal with some measure to deal with the employee parking and the drop-off and loading zones. I really don't care whether we stripe Main Street or whether we time limit Main Street or whether we charge on Main Street. I know you're saying it's inconsistent, but I think if we're going to implement paid parking in some fashion, it's going to be very dramatic. I don't think we have to be overly comprehensive. That's my sense of it. But anyway, we have a motion on the table.
I agree with you too, Dean. I agree.
So in the interest of moving paid parking forward, I'll withdraw the piece of the motion that includes the application for metered parking on Main Street. I'll withdraw that piece of it.
Okay.
But part of that motion is also, as you noted earlier, Mr. Chairman, that we recommend to the town manager and her staff to come back with the technical stuff that we have. And I would also include with that a recommendation from DPW on whether or not striping Main Street and Depot Road, south side of Depot, is a good idea or not. I'm not a master at parking, but it may be helpful to stripe spaces there. It may actually be more efficient.
You want to reframe your motion then?
Not really.
Okay, well then, can you summarize it?
Yeah, no, to endorse the concept of paid parking at Kate Gould Town Hall and Orpheum lots, to ask for a recommendation back on the application of how we implement paid parking using the state-of-the-art parking software, if you will. And then also an ask of DPW to come back with a recommendation or for implementation of striping on Main Street and Depot as well. And I'm very interested, and I think it's very important that we address ADA concerns on Main Street. We're deficit on Main Street with ADA concerns as well. So we need to bake into this motion.
I think that's coming up in the next category. I think we can talk about that.
I'll amend my second on that.
So you're seconding what Jeff just said. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we have a motion and it's seconded. Is there any further discussion on this? I don't think so. All right, I'll call the roll. Yes,
I guess there's no.
Go ahead.
What? And I apologize for, slowing down the process. You guys have lived it for a billion years. You've been here, and I haven't.
Yeah.
So I tend to try to digest things a little bit more. I feel like I don't have all of the information. I'm intrigued by the paid parking, but I'm sitting next to a merchant who's saying, who's discouraging that, and that concerns me. He's a witness. He's a firsthand witness down there, and I'm not. I would like the town manager to come back with, okay, this is what this would look like. This is how, without us having to endorse a paid parking plan in principle or otherwise yet, so I can see a more detailed understanding when Jill comes back with whatever she comes back from staff. And I think that would be a little bit more prudent. We got till next summer. I mean, I know the budget's coming up, but we move like a snail's pace. So, and this has been going on for 100 years, so it's not like the building's burning down. I think it's important to go to town meeting with a consensus of the board, and I hate for it to be split.
Okay. Well, we do have a motion on the table with a second, unless somebody wants to move in a different direction.
Well, we could
make
make a motion after we vote on this. Is that what you're suggesting?
We could. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll entertain
A different motion that would still move us forward.
Okay. I mean, that was a suggestion I offered earlier, but, okay, so we have Jeff's motion seconded by Shireen. I'm going to call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Nay.
Mr. Smith?
nay with a,
I hear you. And the chair votes aye. So it's a 3-2 vote. Are there any other motions on this item? Okay. And I will say, when the implementation plan comes back, the types of concerns that were mentioned by various people, including what Stuart just said, I think could be taken up as well as those expressed by Corey. Next category, we have 2 left. Circulation-related improvements. There it is on the screen. Key intersections should be enhanced for pedestrian safety and connectivity. The Main Street Rotary, the Main Street at Cross Street, Main Street at Chatham Bars Avenue, Shore Road at Barcliff Avenue. So we're sort of out by and I think that was intended to be like the rectangle that we were looking at for the town parking. I don't know that they're talking about the fish pier there. I don't remember. Katie, I don't.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I believe what they were talking about a crosswalk across.
Barcliff to the fish pier.
That's correct.
Is that what they were talking about?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to make a comment. I'm going to ask you to take the chair for a minute, but I'm looking at Katie's memo, and this is derived from the report. Reestablishing the crosswalk at Library Lane. I know it has to be ADA compliant. I think that's what we heard, but everybody's crossing the street there anyway,
Quick question.
including me.
Quick question about that, but I know, but actually for a while, because it was just kind of rolled over, people just like, oh, it's still a crosswalk.
Yeah, it looks like a crosswalk.
It looks like a crosswalk. Was there ever any conversation about moving having a crosswalk basically in front of like Bursa's Byway? Because there is an area that's hashed off, so you're not losing any parking spaces there. Let's be honest. I see people walking across the street all over town. But I see it, I mean, in front of my area of town, people are walking in the street all the time, and they're foolish because someone is going to get hurt. People forget it's a road.
Yeah.
Even the Seaview Street intersection, people forget it's a road sometimes, and they stand there and they're not paying attention necessarily all the time. And I've seen some, scary things,
I've seen, and I experienced it recently. I'm in the crosswalk on Main Street, and somebody's driving, not paying any attention, not stopping for a pedestrian. I just wanted to say one thing, because I know Jeff is Mr. Sidewalks, and I know he's going to talk about, because this is in here, extending the sidewalk on Shore Road to Barcliff Avenue. I just wanted to put this out. I'm not crazy about the granite curb and the asphalt sidewalks, especially aesthetically on that road. There's a nice walking path that the Chatham Bars Inn paid for with red brick. It stops at a certain point. I would certainly would entertain some kind of an extension of that. I don't know, maybe it could be done in partnership with the inn because they still own some of the properties south of that. But I think what I would suggest before we were to commit to anything like that, we ought to get from the DPW what the layout is. Because you're going to be on, there are some private properties, and I don't mean going and staking things out like happened on Stage Harbor Road, but just so we would know, so we can make an informed decision. But I wanted to throw that out, and I'll rejoin you for the discussion if you could just take the chair for a few minutes.
May I take the chair? Yeah. Certainly, thanks, Dean. Yeah, for every one of these, to be honest with you, they have following key intersections should be enhanced: Main Street Rotary, Main Street at Cross Street, Main Street at Chatham Bars Ave, and Shore Road at Barcliff. They have, pictures, I should say, or pro formas of what those intersections might look like if they were improved and made ADA compatible. So my notion here is not being a highway engineer, but is to remand this stuff back to DPW with an expression of our interest in what could we do to make these intersections safer and more pedestrian friendly and ADA compliant. The one that kind of really struck me was both Barcliff and the Fish Pier. There's a lot of action there, and there's a lot of folks parking on Barcliff and along Shore Road, both north and south of the Fish Pier, and I think we're begging issues there as well. And then the intersection across from Keiko Park, that whole triangle there between, what you call it Mark Four and Strike, but where Mark Four and Strike was and the Mayflower and the brick building, that intersection, I guess it's not clearly, it's green and it should be white and it's not ADA. I mean, we have some serious issues there, I think, downtown to make it more pedestrian and ADA compatible or compliant, I should say. So I don't know, Rob, if you want to say anything, but you're probably going to be shortly be tasked with kind of a giant bunch of work here, but just your thoughts, especially downtown and at the Fish Pier.
Yeah, I mean, the commission made some really quality recommendations. I think the issue, not just the color, because the green is reserved for bike lanes, it's the exposure of pedestrians, the amount of time they're exposed to traffic. So they're on the current triangle formula, they're in the travel lanes much longer period of time than they need to. So if you had a perpendicular crossing with some bulb outs, you have to have handicap ramps and the detectable warning surfaces, but you also need a flat area behind that for pedestrians to keep moving on the street. So that all takes real estate. So that's why they had those bulb outs, what they're called. They put the ramps basically where the parking is now. So you lose additional parking spaces in those areas, but I think it's a much safer design for, pedestrian safety primarily. And Barcliff is a tricky situation. So you could have a crosswalk there, but where do you send people to? You can meet the compliance of the law and have a ramp on the Barcliff side, but there's no sidewalk anywhere. So you're kind of throwing a crosswalk in to comply with the law, but then you're dumping pedestrians on the side of a road that handicap or a visually impaired person wouldn't even be there in the first place. So, I mean, we're kind of splitting hairs a little bit. But
Is there not a sidewalk that feeds down into the Fish Pier now? From Shore Road down into the Fish Pier or not? You know what I'm saying? No?
it comes up the driveway of
Comes up the driveway, yes.
and then it ends.
But could you not tie into that?
Right, but what do you do on the other side of Shore Road, on the Barcliff side?
Yeah, there's no side, there's no
crosswalk.
There's no crosswalk and there's no sidewalk.
The only crosswalk is from the bottom of the stairs over.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess we're looking for, my opinion, we're looking for a solution. There's some kind of a safer solution for pedestrian traffic down at the Fish Pier. I don't know. Gentlemen, what say you?
Well,
Stuart?
Well, the sidewalk that was created and the sidewalk that was established both down Barcliff Avenue Extension and then surrounding the south end of the parking lot was a huge improvement for safety, from a safety perspective. And I know we now have plans, what we did some years ago too, to go all the way to the end of the South Jog Pier to get people to the float dock. So I know that's in the works for maybe this winter. So that's a huge improvement. Like everywhere else in town, but the Fish Pier is like the focal point. We all know there's just too many people. There's too many people visiting the Fish Pier. I mean, that's the long and short. Look at the numbers that the department gives you folks. It's now well over 80,000 a month. I mean, for how many parking spaces in the upper lot? 56 or something. From my perspective, from a safety standpoint, it would be really effective if we could slow the traffic down on Shore Road. They come down, heading from north to south on Shore Road, and they're going way too fast down that hill. I don't know what the speed limit is. It's probably 30, but it ought to be something less. That in itself would help. And just tell me if I'm going too far afield here, but I would say no commercial trucks parking on the roadways there. I know we got rid of parking somewhere over there on Barcliff Avenue, and I thought that was moving too quickly, that we should have instead stopped the box trucks and the other commercial vehicles that are too big to be parking on the side of the road. We should have halted that first and see whether we could have lived with the vehicles being parked on those roadways. But, long story short, make the speed limit less, because it's just, somebody is going to get injured there. And as far as a crosswalk, I mean, I like the idea of a crosswalk, but you're going to Barcliff Ave and there's no sidewalks. So, I mean,
Okay,
Jeff?
where are we? Shireen?
Shereen?
Yeah.
You're back.
No, I happened to be at the Fish Pier with my grandchildren a couple of weeks ago, and I was somewhat blown away as the amount of people that are down there. I don't always go down there. If I do, it's a quick work-related thing. But we had to get parking. We were getting a boat at the South Jog to go over to the beach and stuff, and I was just overwhelmed by the amount of cars that are trying to park or even just moving through that upper level looking for parking. I know we're going to be discussing a little more about the shuttle, but I can't reiterate how I think that might help some of the issues that are happening down there. Safety is a big issue, so crosswalks, sidewalks are something we need, but if it's a pathway to nowhere, then that precludes whether it's safe or not. But I think the more that we can do to create better access for the Fish Pier, because we're not going to stop people from going down there, I think that the better off we'll be. And I agree with Stuart when he had said about the larger box trucks and trucks being on the side of Shore Road should be eliminated, not just at the Fish Pier, but along the entire roadway itself.
Okay, so what is the consensus around this?
So I had Rob came up, and I forewarned him that he's probably going to be tasked with figuring out all the safety things that we can do at these various intersections going forward, and that there's a budgetary impact, so I guess the sooner the better. But, they list Main Street Rotary, Cross Street, Main Street and Cross, Main Street, Chatham Bars Ave, Shore Road and Barcliff, which I think is going to be a difficult one. But the other crosswalk upgrades on Main Street themselves, I think we need some input on. And again, we don't sit here as traffic engineers or, safety engineers, but we have expertise in our staff that I think need to weigh in, and they know exactly what we want to address. These are the areas we want to address.
That's good. It sounds like there's sort of a general consensus to
do that.
Ask that be done. I don't know, with respect to extending the sidewalk on Shore Road, I don't know whether there's any prospect of collaborating with the Chatham Bars Inn on part of that, whether they might be interested.
And it gets you from Claflin down to the Fish Pier, but in between, I mean, that.
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
Stuart?
Then you don't have anything go up Chatham Bars Ave either. There's no sidewalk there.
No, I understand that.
One thing the board might consider, and if you've gone to the Fish Pier, you've seen it, and that is the south entrance on Shore Road has been largely barricaded, and we started that when I was there, and it helps with the congestion there. It gets you a few more parking spaces, but it also it's just too much traffic coming in there, and it focals it to the north end, which is a busy intersection, but at least you're focusing all the traffic in that one area, and maybe slowing down that traffic coming down from the south, from the north, from the south.
Okay.
And I would make that permanent, and I would make parking spots.
Isn't that?
Yeah.
I think that's a recommendation. It's a
It's
recommendation
in the
from the
report itself, I
I
think.
think it would.
Yeah.
I think it would be helpful.
Yeah, I do too.
I didn't see any public comment. Rob Faley?
Rob wants to talk.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to mention that the previous manager at CBI had expressed interest in extending the sidewalk to Claflin Landing. I don't know what the current management is decided, but that was something that was discussed with DPW at one point.
That would be a major improvement there, because they own the properties along there.
Yeah, there is a big grade differential that they would take a little bit more effort to try to put that in.
I'm looking southward.
Yeah.
And then when that ends, and when their properties end, you've got these private properties, so, and that's why I suggested taking a look at the layout, which you probably have available somewhere or could find.
Well, I can find it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no staking, please. That was an issue.
So we have consensus on that.
Okay, so we don't have enough, I'm sorry.
Somebody online.
HB. Heather?
Yes, hi, I'm Heather Butler. I actually live north of the Fish Pier on Shore Road, so I have a front row seat to everything that you are talking about today. I don't know if you could see me. And I just wanted to bring up, I know you've mentioned the road to having a crosswalk and, you know, it goes to nowhere, but people are walking there, whether there's sidewalks there or not. People walk up and down Shore Road in front of my house all day long, as well as the parking that goes on, et cetera. So I think the crosswalk is critical, even if we, you know, it's a long time until we can get a sidewalk on Shore Road or a sidewalk on Barcliff, but to not have a crosswalk there, I think is a real problem.
And where would that be? At Barcliff?
At Shore Road, crossing Shore Road to Barcliff,
Okay.
where you're proposing do it.
Okay.
I know it won't go anywhere, at least for a while, in terms of the sidewalk issue. I also do know that north of the Fish Pier, the road taking for Shore Road is very wide. So the town does own a lot of property that could allow for a sidewalk north of the Fish Pier.
Well, thank you for your comments. I don't see anybody else, so I'm prepared to go to the next topic. This is the last one, the downtown shuttle. Put that up on the board, Katie, if you would, please. Okay, so when the group looked at this, we had as a model what the town of Plymouth has. I think there are pictures in the report. It's a vehicle. It's kind of a small, it's kind of a minibus. And my understanding is it was fully funded by the merchants up there and not the town. When we discussed it, the Chatham Valet proprietor, Mladen, postulated that that would be too big a vehicle to make any sense on Main Street, which is pretty narrow. And that seemed to me to make a lot of sense. He suggested that the types of shuttles that he has, which are smaller, and he has several of them now, and he does transport people gratis, I think, a lot, even to the Fish Pier and the Lighthouse, that would make a little more sense going up and down Main Street. In any event, the underlying thinking behind having a shuttle is to get people to park off the downtown, or even if they were going to the Fish Pier, as they do now, they could park at Eldridge, and he'll take them to the Fish Pier, or he'll take them to the Lighthouse Beach. So this would be more institutionalized. Now, we would have to RFP it or somehow comply, obviously, with the state procurement laws if we wanted to contemplate using possibly Mr. Mladen's operation. But so that's the underlying thinking. Jeff?
Yeah, as I said earlier, I've been an advocate for a shuttle for years now, and I think using Mladen, abiding by procurement laws, obviously, but with the potential to use Mladen would short-circuit the delivery of a shuttle service that I think makes eminent sense. Just for Stuart especially, and perhaps Corey as well, we years ago, in this parking solution working group in another iteration, looked at purchasing, renting, contracting with the county and the state and stuff, and it got really complicated, really expensive, dealing with unions and employees and blah, blah, blah. This, in my mind, would be a really facile solution to providing a shuttle on a more quick timeline, if we could work a deal out with Mladen. So that's my recommendation would be to direct the town manager and staff to come up with an RFP for a shuttle service in the town of Chatham, and certainly have Mladen get a copy.
Well, that would be part of their implementation recommendation on this whole plan. We did also look at the CCRT, and
That's what I referred to.
That was
the
expensive.
CCRT.
Yeah.
It was-
Corey?
It was the county.
Well, I'm not necessarily opposed to a shuttle. I mean, I think there is some great upsides to it. It's just the financing, how it's being, free, charged, who's paying for it, As a downtown merchant, I feel very uncomfortable being like, hey, every taxpayer in the community pay for this because you're not getting the benefit of it. So there's some awkward conversations around it. But the core concept of having a shuttle, not something I'm opposed to. But there are some details I would definitely would like to discuss.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm sorry. Paid parking would pay for the shuttle. It'd be part of the infrastructure that paid parking would go towards.
We don't even know how much the shuttle would cost.
We don't know. We don't want to
It might
cost.
be pretty
But I
cheap.
oppose paid parking.
I know you did.
I know. It might be pretty cheap.
It might be. It might
Go
be.
ahead.
So I too agree with the shuttle concept. I think we've reached that threshold. But when I see free, really isn't free, somebody's paying for this. And I don't know if paid parking ultimately fails, I'd hate to lose the shuttle as well. So if paid parking were to fail, it may behoove us to have an alternative as to how we're going to pay for this, because I think it is a good idea. And, where it goes and all that stuff we can work out later. But I think I'd be supportive if we had a way of paying for it, if paid parking. I don't want to make it contingent on paid parking.
No, and it's not planned, I don't think.
Well, but it says free. So on Corey's point, how are we paying for that? The users need to pay for it.
Well, we could drop the word free. I think the reason the group wanted free is that it would encourage people to go park at the community center, and they don't have to pay to park
Yeah.
there, and then they can go downtown.
And I agree.
That's true in some other communities, but we don't have to put the word free in. We could learn more about it.
Yeah, I
and
would. I
hear
would
back
take the
from
word free out because it isn't, and we don't know how we're going to pay for it yet. Yes, okay, if paid parking goes through, then there's a revenue source, okay, but if it doesn't, we should have a backup plan.
I don't know what the Chatham Valet's business plan is now, but they don't charge extra to transport somebody that parks there, and they are paying to park there, at the Eldridge, to go to the lighthouse or to go to the.
Right.
He just drives them, and he'll drive people up Main Street. I've seen the vehicles go.
Yeah.
So it may be much less costly.
Well, I think he's trying to encourage people to park in the parking lot, and
sure.
that's where he's getting his revenue,
Sure,
and so he
yeah.
doesn't have to charge for that.
Yeah.
That's a business decision.
Okay. Shireen, did you have anything on this one?
No, I think I've made it clear that I want to see us move forward with a shuttle.
Joan Craig.
Thank you again. I don't want to take credit for this, but I have a memo from July 7th of 2021 to my committee about the parking issues. And all of this information that you're talking about tonight was brought up in this memo. And shortly thereafter, I got word that there was a study coming, and would I represent the Traffic Safety Committee on this board, on this study group. Some of the things that I suggested at the time, and I always say shuttles, plural, because not just Mladen, but other groups that have them, they have the give and take. They stagger them, so somebody's going, somebody's coming. Some have it so that there are specific areas for pickup and drop-off. They have a little sign or a bench that this is the shuttle area. But my suggestion at the time was you could also park at Monomoy Middle School. You could park at the community center. You could go to Oyster Pond, Atwood House, the Lighthouse Beach, the Fish Pier, the library. You could consider, and Mladen brought this up at one of our meetings. He said that he could easily expand his fleet and make it so that there are more people able to go on some of his shuttles, 8 to 12 people, it was my understanding, and that he could even take them to Harding's Beach or to, I don't know if we'd go that far, but to Ridgeville Beach. He also said what he can do, and I think he does it now, if he drops you off, he can say, call me when you need to be picked up. He can also say, I will pick you up at this time, that type of thing. So he's very organized in that regard. I think any other group would be that way too. But I am very much in favor of a shuttle because I know that paid parking will work. I know it will. It has worked elsewhere. I come from a town where I was stunned when they did it, and they did it with the Passport app. It is a breeze. And when you come to the idea of how do you enforce it, if they go over the time limit, it's going to go on their card. It's going to go on their credit card. And then it's up to us to decide what do we want to charge for that type of thing. So that's another issue to be brought up in the future.
Thank you, Joan. Any other comments from the public on this topic of the downtown shuttle? Okay. Do we need any motions, or do we have a kind of consensus that the town manager will come back with an implementation schedule? And I understand we're not going to confine it to being a free shuttle for purposes of what she comes back with.
That's fine.
All right. Do we need any kind of vote at the end here to just
We voted on the paid parking. Do you want to vote on the shuttle? That's kind of a big deal, isn't it? Or
Okay.
it doesn't matter.
That's fine.
We
Does
seem-
someone offer a motion on the shuttle?
I move to accept the recommendation of the parking study working group to establish a shuttle in the town of Chatham, blah, blah, blah.
Is there a second?
And also, actually put out an RFP according to the procurement laws, and blah, blah, blah.
Well, I think the recommendation that would come back would talk to that, rather than having to put an RFP out now, because we don't know if it's going to be free or paid.
And a primary and alternate funding plan, right?
I would also add, I'd like to amend that to say shuttle service. That way it includes the service and not just the
Yeah,
activity.
a shuttle service, yeah.
Well, let's
And I'll second that then.
let's reframe, let's make sure we understand what we're all voting on, so we're voting on the same thing. It's a recommendation, it's a motion. Joan, we're in motion.
All right, can I just speak after you make the motion?
What did you want to speak to?
Speaking to free, one of the reasons we were very, very strong about free is because it's satellite. And what are you going to get if you get a satellite parking? You get free parking.
Yeah.
So that's why I would stress free.
Well, I wouldn't, and I'll tell you why. As I said before, if the pay plan for the satellite parking that we talked about, those parking lots, doesn't go through, we need a funding source for this. That's why I don't think it should be free. So I don't want to end up the taxpayers here paying for this.
But I don't think we even know, thank you, Joan, I don't think we even know what the recommendation, what the implementation recommendation is going to be from the town manager on the shuttle. She may come back and say, hey, we've explored this, we think it can be done for free, and that's not dependent on getting income from paid parking, because entrepreneurial people like Maladen may have another way of putting together a shuttle service that doesn't require that income, because they're willing to take the sort of the hit on providing the service. I mean, he's got battery-powered, his particular service is battery-powered vehicles.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't want to restrict the RFP either, but the folks that live here year-round should not pay for this. That's all my only point. I don't want.
I hear you. So what is the motion, Kathy?
Mr. Dykens moved to accept the recommendation of the Parking Solutions Working Group to establish a shuttle service with a primary and alternate funding source for the service identified.
It's fine. I'm fine with that.
Is everybody okay with that? Joan, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you made the point.
We're good.
Okay, so I'll call for a vote on that. A motion offered by Mr. Dykens that was seconded by Ms. Davis. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Okay. There was some additional recommendations here, but I don't know that we need to really.
We don't want to look at 655 Main Street?
What's,
Alternative funding source. We could buy the building and put
Oh, that.
VIP parking for $5,000 a spot for the season, 20 spots.
well, I was,
You gotta think outside the box sometimes.
I was referring to restripe the community center parking lot, update and expand the "You Are Here" wayfinding signs, and locate accessible parking spaces near crosswalks, but I just.
I'm just happy that you didn't add, adding a rotary somewhere. I appreciate that. Thank you.
No,
They're called roundabouts.
we have enough of them. Okay, so we're done with this, I think. for
With those additional recommendations, I would just remand those to the DPW, that's all.
Okay,
I would,
for feedback.
for
to us.
feedback, yep,
Okay, we'll do that.
yep, okay.
All right. I think we're done with this.
Thank you.
After 10 years' worth of
Thank
this,
you.
I think we're
Been a
done.
long time coming.
Thank you to everybody who worked on this. Thank you for the public comments and for the board's input tonight. So we have one last item on the agenda. And we recently created the Taxation Aid Committee. I think I suggested that we should have a board member liaison to that committee, and I'm going to open this for board discussion. If someone wants to step forward, and maybe that might make some, means for some adjustment on the committee assignments that are included in the packet. So does anyone interested in serving in this capacity to this new committee? I know someone I'd like to volunteer, but
It has to be a person of financial background.
it should be, did you want to say something, Jeff?
I didn't know, I didn't understand Stuart.
Well,
If you want me to be, I'll do it if you want me to do it.
you've got a bunch of committees, Jeff, and maybe you might want to move one of those to someone else. But the reason I thought of you because of your financial background, as well as the fact that you have consistently, even though I disagreed with you on the transfer tax,
Yep.
and you've got upcoming some proposals or ideas for further tax assistance relief, I thought maybe this would be suitable. But Shireen, maybe she wants to volunteer, but I don't think so.
I don't have the time, Dean.
Yeah.
I think somebody with a financial background would better serve that committee. Thank you for considering me, though.
Jeff, would you want to do this? And
Sure, I'll do it.
Is there something you'd like?
No, there's nothing, no, I'm good.
Well, it's very, very good. So by consensus, we'll just designate Jeff as the liaison to this
Okay.
group. Thank you. All right, a final motion for the night.
Motion to adjourn,
Motion
Mr.
to
Chairman.
adjourn.
Yeah, second.
Moved and seconded.
Shireen moved it.
All right, Ms. Davis,
Aye.
Mr. Dyken,
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We are adjourned at 8:17 PM. Thank
Good
you.
night.